right, let's see if that works. All right, I think they should be able to hear us now. Can you guys hear us?
Oh my gosh, it's hilarious.
Let's see here. Somebody in the live chat. Someone respond. Can you hear us? Can you hear us? Oh,
Franco
yes.
says yes.
All right, here we go. All right, we're live. Sorry about that. So we had some technical difficulties prior to the show. My voice meter, mixer, whatever it's called, was acting up. Compliments of a new Windows update. And so I switched the input, like my mic, I switched directly to my Yeti and my headsets, but I forgot to switch those settings inside OBS Streamlabs, which is why you guys couldn't hear us. So my bad. Again, BRAP needs a producer because I am clearly not great at producing and multitasking. So sorry about that. And sorry for the wait. We had some technical difficulties. We got through that, but it's all good. We are live. So Slow-Mo, thank you, man, because I wouldn't even guess looking at OBS. As soon as you said OBS, I was like, oh shit, I knew exactly what happened. So thank you, Slow-Mo.
Yeah, definitely been there before. So
All right.
And I'm there every week. Every week that Forte hosts DPS it's their whole reminder. Hey, did you check this? Did you check that? Oh, that's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. So we got a great show in store for everyone. We have a guest, a returning guest, and a new guest. We have let me introduce our first time guest. We have Nate. Nate's been a long-time BRAP listener and is in the BRAP Discord and was actually helping us out with some of the technical difficulties. So I said, Nate, why don't you just jump in the show? You're already here. So Nate, glad you could join us, man. Welcome to BRAP.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. I'm happy to be here. Let's go.
PCMR, man. That's all I got to say is PCMR.
Definitely. You already know. You see the icon.
I see it. I see the icon. And then we have another returning guest. Now this gentleman's been on BRAP before, but it's been it's definitely been over a year, I think. But we have communication managers from Wushu Studios. If you're not familiar with Wushu Studios, they have done work on games such as Destruction All-Stars and are currently working on Baldur's Gate 3. We have Shinobi602. Shinobi, welcome back to BRAP.
Hey, appreciate it, Enrique. Thanks for having me. Seems we've always missed each other over the past year, so
I know, man.
Finally getting it to work. I made sure to carve out some time. Like, damn it, I want to make it work this time. So here I am.
Absolutely. I really appreciate you coming on, man. Like I said, I know you're busy. And it's Slow-Mo. I don't know if you were on with us when we had Shinobi on last. I don't remember.
I was, and,
you were,
and
okay.
it was a hilarious show because like we were having a great show. It's just that no one could hear it. It was awesome.
So we had to use that show too then.
Yeah, didn't we talk for about 45 minutes until we figured out no one could hear us? Or
yeah,
I think so. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
It was great. It was the best show that no one ever heard. It was awesome.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. It was like and they were like no one could hear it. Oh my God, it's hilarious.
This is back when I kept telling Enrique, dude, you need to have your PC Ethernet connected with some Cat6 cable, and he's like, no, I got my mesh pods, Wi-Fi for life, and they're just like, okay.
Oh my God, I don't think I said it like that, but I was kind of like, oh, I got mesh pods, I'm good.
Yeah, I think that was like the last episode before you switched over to StreamYard for like a little while because it was kind of rough. It was kind of rough with BRAP. Yeah.
No, exactly, man. It was a little rough, man. It was rough, and I made the change and hardwired my PC, and it's crazy. Like I download like 90 gig games in like I don't know, like 20 minutes or probably less than that. It's nuts. Like it's fast. Yeah, I'm
jealous.
Yeah, I'm getting almost a gig download. Like, and I'm like, and I remember I did the installation. I'm like, damn it, it wasn't hard to do. It wasn't hard to do at all. And yeah. I should have listened to Slow-Mo sooner than later, but it is what it is. But Nate, PCMR, man, that's all I gotta say. PCMR.
Hey, man, every day.
Hey, we're getting everyone's exclusives.
Everyone.
Yeah. Anyhow, we even got Nintendo's, although you got to do a little workaround to play Nintendo's exclusives. I won't.
Yeah, BRAP podcast is not.
Yes, we don't condone.
Does not endorse.
Yes,
the use of emulators.
No,
for
we
illegal.
No.
Illegal work. But if you do it, hey, enjoy.
Yeah, bless your heart if you do it. We don't condone it though. But you know what's really cool, Slim? I don't know if you remember though, but and one of the things I think is really cool about Shinobi is that I'll never forget Shinobi. There was a picture of you. You tweeted this out. You meeting the Bioware guys. I think it was it like a dinner or lunch or something?
Yeah, yeah. That was oh gosh, man, that was I think that was in 2016, I believe. That was 5 years ago.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I'm remembering it now because that was pre me, actually joining, starting working on games, and back when I was, just kind of on the outside as a fan, and I've always loved Bioware, like since I've started. I mean, since probably Baldur's Gate 2, I would say. So I mean, I've always been a huge fan. So I kind of knew some of the guys there, and they knew me through the internet, not in person, but
Yeah.
and they were in town because EA has a headquarters here in Florida, in Orlando. So that was back in 2016 when they were kind of.
Was that Tiburon Studios? Is that
Tiburon? Yeah,
Tiburon,
Tiburon Studios. Yeah, most of the EA Sports and stuff.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were in town, and I guess they were just kind of showing off Mass Effect Andromeda, kind of like an internal presentation to the EA guys and stuff. And
was this prior to the switch to Frostbite engine? Because I know at one point they were still developing on like their updated Eclipse engine. Which...
this was way after that. I mean, they'd already shipped Dragon Age Inquisition like 2 years prior to that, so I mean that was already Frostbite. But yeah, I remember this was long before Andromeda came out. So as a fan, we kind of had dinner downtown Orlando, and I still remember the general manager at the time, Aaron, he pulled out his own iPad, his personal iPad. And he's like, "Hey, check this out." And he just showed me Mass Effect Andromeda for a good 5-10 minutes, and I just remember just geeking out.
Nice. Nice.
At the time it was good. Yeah, good times.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool, man. I'll just always remember that picture because I remember like, holy shit, like I'm like, Shinobi met the Bioware guys, and I just thought it was really cool because like everyone, I shouldn't say everyone. I'm not sure about Nate, if you're a Bioware fan, but like,
am I a Bioware fan? Man, massive Bioware fan. I've been following them for years. I got an N7 hoodie on right now.
Nice.
I got N7 on my background.
Woo!
And I got the game on pre-order.
There we go.
I have an N7. Okay, listen, I have an N7 coffee mug that I use every day. I got an N7 hoodie. Nice. I got an N7 t-shirt, and yeah, I mean, I think I got just about N7 everything. Let me find something else. I did have a wallet.
So are we all going through our own Mass Effect memorabilia? So let's see. I got the N7 hat. Got a couple N7 masks for good old COVID. Got some cereal bowls. They're actually like Blasto bowls. They're the Hanar Blasto, if you guys know him.
Yeah.
Got a couple a Mako shirt, a shirt with the Tempest on it, a shirt with I got a Garrus shirt. Oh gosh. Yeah.
Nice. Dude, you got a lot of stuff, Shinobi. I mean, but hey, I gotta ask you something, Shinobi, real quick. I'll ask you this question too, Nate.
Yeah.
There was a debate, and it really wasn't even debate. Let's just keep it real. Like, Slimo, you were part of this debate.
It was a massacre.
I don't even know why it was a debate. It wasn't even a debate.
It was a massacre.
It was it was one-sided, right? One-sided. I'm going to ask you the question first, Shinobi, and then I'll ask Nate. Shinobi, what is the best Mass Effect game in the trilogy?
Oh, the first one.
What?
Get him out of here.
Okay.
Get him out of here.
Oh, my God.
Get him out.
I need, but there's a star next to that statement.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so to me it is my personal favorite of the series. But I think that Mass Effect 2 as a game, just in terms of design, is a better video game to play.
Mass Effect 2.
This is an acceptable answer.
See, the first one. Yes. The first one is my favorite because it's the one that introduced me to that universe, right? Like it.
Yes.
It was the first time I saw the Citadel. I heard that music. I saw I met Garrus, I met Rex, I met Tally, Liara. The first time you encountered a Reaper, Sovereign, which is like one of the
Mhm.
all-time best scenes, in gaming for me.
Yeah, on
Uh,
Vermeer with
yeah,
the whole plot twist. That's what BioWare was in their
yeah, man,
bag when it came to storytelling. They would always
absolutely,
hit you with that
They were,
that
yeah.
left hook.
yeah,
I mean, nothing better than Kotar's left hook. That
yeah,
that one, the whole
yeah.
like,
That
I
that
mean,
was a
look,
doozy, but
yeah,
No
yeah.
yeah,
spoilers,
so,
slow
so
mo.
yeah,
The game is like
I
30
I
years
know. It's
old.
like, you're not lying. It's getting up there in age. It's almost 20 years old.
If you don't know who Revan is by now, I
Who's
mean,
Revan?
just
Yeah. Go. I'm sorry, Shinobi. Go ahead, man.
so I mean, yeah. So that's pretty much, it's just because it's the first time you set foot in that world, man. I mean, just everything from even though like, the Uncharted planets, for example, they're kind of barren and stuff, but just like it gives you a better feeling of, or at least a more immersive, I guess I hate that word, but a more immersive feeling of being in a galaxy, and you can explore these uncharted worlds and meeting all these new species and stuff. And so like that holds a really special place in my heart, because I'm like a Star Trek fan. So I love like, seeing how creative people get with like new species and stuff. So Mass Effect 2, like I think it's a better playing game, but I personally have a much stronger affinity towards the first one. Um, so yeah,
That's all. No,
I
I
can
mean,
see that.
I mean,
yeah,
well, we won't hold you to the fire for saying Mass Effect One.
No, he admitted for him personally, he says that one is better for him, but he acknowledges that two is the better game, and that's perfectly fine with me. Like when it comes to overall series, I actually
yeah.
enjoy the Dragon Age series more than the Mass Effect series.
Oh
But that's
wow,
just me personally because I like that. I like the world of Thetis
yeah,
and the whole medieval theme and
yeah,
all that stuff is just like it really resonates with me more than Mass Effect
yeah,
and just the writing it
yeah,
really and the characters really hit for me more. But
yeah,
I acknowledge that the Mass Effect series is a better series.
yeah, yeah. I
So
mean, it's
so it's
yeah.
so
It,
it's
it,
like it's
it it
what your
depends on where
personal
you,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
It depends on where you fall. I mean, like, you're either a fantasy person or a sci-fi person, or like both. But
But you like one more than the other. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I enjoy both. I love Dragon Age. Dragon Age Inquisition was my game of the year that year. But like I've always been just a huge like sci-fi nerd. Like I love the idea, just this humongous, galaxy or Milky Way, and there's just other races and stuff, and that sci-fi tech, that sleek, sci-fi technology is just I love it. So, sci-fi is my jam. So
Yeah.
Yeah, no
And
doubt.
yeah.
Nate, what's your favorite, man?
I mean, he kind of said it the best. Um, and I agree with him. Number one, I beat it 21 times.
Wow.
It introduced me to the series. I loved it.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it. It was actually close to one of the games that really pushed me towards PC even more than I already was. Because I mean, we never had a chance to really talk about it, but I always played Xbox, like my friends had them,
Yeah.
but I never got into it. And I was into PC really, really early.
Nice,
Um,
man.
yeah, so like when that came to PC, that was like my moment, and I played it what felt like nonstop, honestly.
Yeah.
And I was so speaking of one or two, I was actually so proud, and I always tell people about this. My girlfriend, I was so excited that I got her to play it right before it started to feel like extremely dated, like just when it was just playable enough. And she got to play one and two and go straight into three, and it's also one of her favorites till this day.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. Part two felt like you said, more refined.
Yeah. Exactly.
Was the big thing. Like
Yeah,
it
I
was
agree
like,
with that.
okay, here's the culmination of our efforts. Look
Yeah.
what we improved. And obviously the Shadow Broker DLC was godlike.
Oh hell yeah.
One of the best expansions ever created.
Preach.
Yeah.
I love it.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
what about the elusive man? I mean, Martin Sheen.
Yeah.
I mean, holy shit.
Yeah. I
he
mean,
killed that role.
that's the thing, man. Like there are definitely, I mean, there's definitely things about ME2 that I mean, like I agree, they transcend,
Yeah.
what, the first one. In a lot of ways, some of the characters, Elusive Man and Morden is amazing. A lot of those missions, like the loyalty missions, are all great, and like the experience is just, I mean, everything, the combat, the powers, like the shooting, everything just feels tighter and
Yeah.
uh, more refined, like you said, more refined. Structure's tighter, pacing is excellent. So like we really just fired on like all cylinders. But yeah, it's just like, again, it's just that I don't want to use, I don't want to say nostalgia. It's just that you build an affinity towards something whenever you experience a world for the first time. Um, and that was the first Mass Effect. It's like, again, like you can't recreate, like Mass Effect 2 and 3 doesn't, you can't recreate like seeing the Citadel for the first time or stepping foot on it,
Exactly.
it's something so like, it's like kind of like wondrous, it's like it's mystical, just it's so good.
Well, you were lost in that world,
Yeah.
experiencing it for the first time, and that
Uh-huh.
was one of the things I'll never forget when you first encounter Sovereign. Like I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is going somewhere.
Yep.
Like it's about to go down. We about to face that guy,
Yep.
and later on you became more knowledgeable, and you understood the world and what the Mass Effect relays were, and
Yeah.
it, it continued to expand,
Yep.
and BioWare is great at that,
Yeah.
constantly expanding the universe. Just when you thought you've seen it all. And it's funny, he said he was a fan of Star Trek, because so am I. Like Star Trek's my jam.
Yep.
And like you said, experiencing those different aliens and the
Yeah.
way they introduced everybody,
Yeah.
when you got to see the Drell and everything for the first time.
Yeah.
And just
I mean,
like
yeah.
It never really occurred to me, but yeah, Mass Effect does have a lot of similarities to Star Trek. Maybe Drew Karpyshyn, when he like created this universe, really did pull a lot of influences. Even though he's written a lot of stuff for Star Wars,
Yeah.
maybe he did pull a lot of influences from Star Trek. I would say it's like Star Trek but cool.
Yeah. That's actually great. Star Trek.
I'm not a big Star Trek fan, but
I'm not either,
I
but-
think Mass Effect 1, there was definitely a shift with BioWare games from 1 to 2. If you notice, if I can recall, 2 came out around the same time as Dragon Age Origins, right? I do know.
Yeah.
Those two
Yeah.
games were the first 2 games that BioWare did under EA. And so I know some people think that Mass Effect 2 was watered down because EA didn't want it to be as much of a RPG as it was, but I think it was really more of them trying to refine what they had done, because if you look at Mass Effect 1, there was issues with balancing with the weapons. There was issues with the cover shooting. It was their first time doing any game with any kind of shooting elements like that, so that makes sense. There were I mean every mercenary base was literally the same exact base, copy and pasted. The planets,
crates everywhere.
yeah, crates everywhere, the same walls, the
chest high
same
walls.
Yeah, it's just like this is I've been in this base before.
Yeah.
But
it's funny because like as a fan, like I definitely see that stuff. I'm very conscious of it. I'm like, oh, it's the same exact base and whatever. But it's just like everything else around it is just so good. It's like I don't mind it. It's like, you might be on a side mission where you're tracking down some pirate or whatever, and it's like, in the same exact base, but it's like, oh, I can't wait to see what conversation I have next. Like everything else is just so good. It doesn't bother me.
Right. Now I do think I made this I made this comparison on the debate show we did on the Iron Lords podcast, and a shout out to them. That was if you haven't seen it yet, after this, watch the replay. It was awesome. But I liken Mass Effect 2 and its impact on the gaming industry to Final Fantasy VII's impact back on the original PlayStation for the American market in RPGs. Prior to that, RPGs were not like popular. Like people didn't go, man, I gotta get this next RPG.
Yeah.
Like it was the game that just sat on the shelf. And I remember my first time picking up an RPG was Final Fantasy IV, which was considered Final Fantasy II over here. And I was just intrigued by the Esper that was like on the cover. It was just like red background with an Esper, and I was just like, oh, that looks like you. Back then, you didn't have like access to these kind of games to see stuff like. Now you can see everything about a game. It's gameplay. It's the ins and outs of development. All that stuff is like readily available for you. Back then, it was just like, hey, that cover looks cool. Guess I'll pick this up. But I was hooked on RPGs from that point on. For most people, their very first entry into RPGs was Final Fantasy VII, and I think that Mass Effect 2 was a lot of people's very first exposure to a narrative-driven game, a game that really focused on the stories of these characters. So you think about in Mass Effect 2, it had the same crew mostly, except for Rex, than Mass Effect 1, except you got to know those characters so much more. Instead of just with damn, what is his name? The Turian. Why is the Turian's name that
Garrus?
Garrus, thank you. Garrus. And Garrus, he goes from like a mall cop of the Citadel to this complete badass bounty hunter / mercenary.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and you get to know him so much more. Like you would have these conversations with him in Mass Effect 1 where he's like, oh, there was this one guy, Dr. Hart. I never got a chance to get him. He got away. I would love to catch him if we had the opportunity. That's like more of I'm still kind of the Citadel cop. Just wanted to get that last guy I never got. Whereas in part 2, he's on a revenge story. It's personal for him.
Yeah, it is.
He got betrayed by someone he thought was a friend. I gotta have get back. And it's just like whether in the choices in that. It's like in Mass Effect 1, it was like you can say, I ain't got time for that, Garrus. And that's really it. It's like he doesn't take it personal with you. It's just like, all right, cool. You ain't got time for it.
Okay.
In Mass Effect 2, that can drastically affect your ability to finish the game.
Yeah.
If you tell him, look, we about to do the suicide mission. We ain't really got time for your revenge kicks right now. Like, don't talk. You can't talk to Garrus for the he comes in. I got calibration, Shepard.
Yeah.
like he's not talking to you anymore. And when it comes to the final mission, do not rely on him to have any kind of important role. That's what made it so amazing. Like, I know I'm really ranting right now, but that suicide mission, yeah.
So good.
Yeah, there has yet to be something in gaming like that. It was nothing like it in gaming before it, and there's been nothing like it in gaming afterwards.
That's true. Real quick, Slow-Mo, and want to get a super chat from our good friend BitCloud Gaming with a $5 super chat. It says, "What's up, fam? Hit that like button. Chat. Salute to Shinobi." Also, want to let everyone know too that we have 2 additional guests right now. Unfortunately, Eric Jackson and B Money could not make it tonight, but we have Evanborn Saga, who's joined us. Thank you, Evanborn, by the way.
Hey.
I know I reached out to you like the 11th hour, man. So I appreciate you coming on, man. How are you this evening?
I was playing Returnal when you reached out to me, and I wasn't making any progress, and this was an excuse to put it down.
Take a break. No, I hear you, man. I'm happy you're able to join us, man. And then we also have I won't call him an industry insider because he's not. He just happens to be very knowledgeable about things. We got our good friend OBM, or One Bad Mother. OBM, what's going on, man?
I'm good, man. I just woke up from a nap. So if I start to,
I love it, man.
If I start to sound like like my dialogues from one of the writers in the new Mortal Kombat movie, that's why I'm still taking off the cobwebs. But hey, it's good to see everybody. It looks like did he take the somebody else's contract?
No. He didn't take anyone's contract. No, he's taking the evening off today, and B is as well. So I think Forte is coming. Slow-Mo, I think. Not sure.
Who knows? I mean, he's probably playing Destiny right now and just doesn't realize what the time is.
Yeah, he's gonna come and be like, "Oh, yeah." But no, it's I'm sure Forte will pop in at some point. But well, it sounds like I mean, look, we're 48 hours away from the Mass Effect Legendary Edition, and I can't wait to play it. I'm actually going to play it on PC because I have EA Play Pro. So
Yeah, me too. I'm preloading the game right now off of Origin.
Nice.
Hey, sorry, Brat.
Yeah, go ahead,
but Slow Mo, can you tell me your thoughts on Jacob from Mass Effect 2? How do you feel about that guy? The Kanye lookalike.
The black version of Caden? Mr. Boring?
Yeah, pretty much.
He's super boring. But he did have a very, very good loyalty mission.
Is that where his pops?
Yes. Yeah. I wouldn't want to ruin it for those who haven't tried. But you literally like go from I don't know who this dude's father is and I don't care. To 30 minutes later, like this dude got to die. He has to die right now.
No spoilers.
That went heavy very quickly. That mission.
Very
Yeah,
heavy, very quickly.
did,
Like
yeah.
I said, all those loyalty missions are just so good. And
Yeah,
I understand the way some people like the Mass Effect 1 camp. A lot of times they kind of feel like, oh well, I feel like all those loyalty missions and personal stories stall the narrative. They like the flow of the narrative from Mass Effect 1, where you're like chasing Saren across the galaxy.
Yeah.
Whereas everything about Mass Effect 2 is this build up for this one suicide mission.
Yeah. But that's the thing. I mean, it's different than Mass Effect 1, but it's good in its own way. Mass Effect 2, I mean, those loyalty missions, doesn't matter if they weren't, they didn't push the core plot forward. They were just amazing in their own right. You wanted to play those missions.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say I actually think that they did though, because when you're a true Mass Effect fan, one of the biggest things that was an issue with Andromeda was these characters you cared about and loved because of all the backstory and everything you went through with them. My team was ride or die. Like I wasn't letting nobody take anybody from me in those games. But Andromeda, the whole ship could have burned and I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, and honestly, I even said this back in that debate that like a lot of people don't know like if you look at Mass Effect 3 kind of confirms that the events of Mass Effect 2 would have happened whether the events turned out well in Mass Effect 1 or not. Some people kind of feel like that Mass Effect, the way Mass Effect 1 ends, it doesn't really pick up until 3. That 2 is like it's irrelevant. But if you look at what was going on with the collectors, what they were doing, and if you speak to Javik, the last Prothean in Mass Effect 3, he tells you like this, all that stuff happened.
Yeah,
and with his cycle, the Reapers are just doing the same thing they've been doing. They take a species, they try to convert them, and then they move on. They exterminate everyone, all the other advanced species, and they let the
spoilers,
the ones. That's not the thing, Okay, I'll stop. But it's just like
I'll joke aside. I do say that though because I have seen on Twitter there's legitimate people that have not played this series, and
there's a lot of people who haven't played the series.
I was surprised. Like I was like, what? Really? You never played
like older game, like not like I understand newer gamers, like I'm 16 and I just really getting into gaming. Like I
play Fortnite.
Your balls just dropped and you just started. You
Slow-mo.
don't know anything about old school BioWare,
My
right?
Adam's
I get
apple
it.
just popped out.
But there's some older gamers that just never they just didn't rock with BioWare like that. They were playing other stuff at the time.
I'm surprised, and I got to be the one thing I always remember about Mass Effect is how dirty they did the Krogans. They just did them dirty.
they did.
I mean,
here's the thing about it's that you can see both sides of so many different things. Like, and Alvin is just like, there's a lot of story talk. So like, maybe we should chill on the story talk. But I would just say that whenever there's a conflict between different people or different species within this series, you can see why people chose the decisions that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also see why other people who have to deal with the ramifications of those decisions also feel the way they feel. It's like it's very well crafted storytelling.
Yeah, I mean the Krogans, like I forget like their background, but I think didn't they do something like didn't they have like some kind of big war or something? I forget.
They tried to take over the galaxy. They're basically the Mass Effect version of the Mandalorians.
Yes, or the people from Destiny. The what's it called? I forget the names. From
Destiny story. No one cares about Destiny.
You know what I'm talking about.
You
the big
going
like
on
people
Destiny?
from Destiny.
I have no
The
clue what's
Cabal.
going on.
The Cabal. Thank you. I don't.
Cabal,
The
that's
Cabal.
what it was,
Yeah,
exactly.
they're almost like the Cabal.
Let me ask you guys a question.
Yep.
Do you think with the release of this remaster that means we'll never get a remake? Because I feel like
No. Well, there's a possibility. There's always a possibility, but it would. Here's the thing: a full-on remake. If they were going to do a full-on remake, I think that, and I already kind of feel this way, that it would have had a bigger impact than this remaster. This remaster is running on Unreal Engine 3. We're about to see
Unreal Engine
Fortnite.
5.
Yeah, we're about to see Fortnite on Unreal Engine 5, right? Like this is Unreal Engine 3. You know, that's so outdated. I feel like they could have did a full remake of the entire trilogy.
Yeah.
Do it in Unreal Engine 4 or 5 or Frostbite engine, whatever they wanted to do it. And by the time it would be ready to come out, it would be coming out not too long before Mass Effect 4, which is fully in development right now. So it's like you could introduce people to the series, and then bam, here is the continuation after 3, so that people could just roll right on into it. But you know that's EA, that's money.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But
See, the thing is, they have Bioware. They have to strike a balance, because what a lot of people don't realize. I'm sure you guys probably think of this in the back of your head without subconsciously, but like as someone that works in a studio myself, like a lot of times, like you have a budget to work with, right?
Mhm.
Like you don't have a choice. It's like this is what you can work with. Do your best, So
Yeah.
something like a remake, honestly, EA has to greenlight something like that, and
Time and money.
yeah, after Mass Effect Andromeda, especially, it's like it's a hard sell, right? It's like it was kind of touch and go there for a little bit. So something like a remake, gosh, I mean, I'd imagine they'd want to at least port it over to like Frostbite or Unreal Engine 4 at least, or something, which like that's a massive that is a massive undertaking. It might sound like simple. It's like, oh, it's just taking the old game and redoing it and stuff. But
yeah, but you gotta completely remake the game in a
you have to
different
completely remake it. That's a full on like AAA production. It's not like a linear. It's not like something like Crash Bandicoot or Demon Souls, or which in themselves is a big undertaking. But those are like linear stuff, and they're small, little shorter games. But like something like Mass Effect takes like 40-hour RPG, with branching dialogue, and they for a remake they'd have to redo the audio and bring back like probably all the mocap, or all the voice actors and everything, and redo all the lines, and like that would take a very long time.
I did wonder
but this
about
is
that. So why would they have to redo the voice acting?
Well, I mean, I'm speaking from what I would imagine they would do, because to bring a game up into like remake standard, there's probably like they could probably touch up the audio a lot, is what I would imagine they would want to do. Like,
so like kind of like actually like make things clearer, or
yeah, I mean, there's or they might, and something like a remake too is, or a reimagining, like it's something that would probably, it comes in the territory of like people expect more from it. Like they don't expect like a one-to-one kind of, it's not like a one-to-one game. They want a reimagining / remake. You expect more, so you want kind of like, they might want to inject new things. They have the directors might have new ideas they want to put in there, so they probably want to bring in, write new lines and add, new quests and stuff like that. So I don't imagine like they would want to make it like, okay, just a complete like one-to-one import all the exact same lines, and just not touch anything. I imagine they would want to do that, but
that's kind of my argument. Like I feel like I would almost prefer Mass Effect the trilogy get the Final Fantasy VII remake treatment instead of a Mass Effect 4, because after like my time with Andromeda, I don't know how much faith I have that Mass Effect 4 exactly will live up to what we got in the original trilogy. So if you just tell me, hey, one thing I did like about Andromeda, I did like the combat, right? So if you bring up the combat, you can tell just make a more modern game, but introduce the world who missed the whole trilogy 10 years ago, introduce it to a whole new generation of gamers up to today's standards with that same story. I think it would hit better than whatever they're gonna do it for.
So Shinobi, do you think they might have underestimated how big a Mass Effect like full remake could have been? Because it even feels like, even for this version, which doesn't, it looks nice. I'm excited about playing it, but it doesn't seem like what would normally be a typical remake. It still feels more. It feels more remastered than remade, but
it is a remaster. Yeah, it's pretty. They've been playing about that, but honestly, I think it really is just simply after Andromeda. The series is kind of, like I said, kind of touch and go there. So it's like, okay, now what do we do with it? Because Andromeda, wasn't, it was kind of mixed. A lot of people say, oh my God, it's the worst game ever. It's not. It's just it did not live up to the original trilogy at all. But it still has some good things going for it. But honestly, I think it's simply just a couple years ago, EA and Bioware just sat down and said, hey, what can we, we want to keep the series going, and something that I'm sure they probably looked at cause I think I even said they looked at what a remake would look like. And you have number crunchers that kind of look at that stuff, and I'm sure EA and Bioware looked at it and said, look, after Andromeda, like, we don't know if this is kind of like viable to invest in, because like I said, like that would be a full on like big AAA production. Like, it's not going to be cheap. It would be expensive.
I hate to say this, but what if EA is not fully invested in BioWare long term? Because you know their history of dropping studios, right? So what if they're like, I mean, look, we're going to continue to support and pay for Dragon Age 4, and Mass Effect 4, but doing a full-on remake of this, that's a level of commitment that we're not quite there yet, because honestly, you're not really the same studio that you used to be. Like, this, reportedly, they have lost, out of a studio that was like about 300 at one point, 150 developers in the past like decade have left this studio. So you're not even with that, and a lot of the key people, like your lead writers on your two best IP, aren't there anymore. They've gone on to other studios. Your top creative directors, who made your, by gaming community standards, considered to be your best games, aren't there anymore. There's a lot to prove from the people who are still there and the people who are brand new to the studio. So I can see EA looking at it like, we could approve this, but we don't know if we're going to want to spend all this money only for us to have to end up cutting ties with this whole thing in like 3 or 4 years. So
I'm not this. I'm like not to sound like a a Bioware like stan or whatever, but I don't know if EA kind of approached it that way, because from a development standpoint, like I working in a studio myself, Dragon Age 4 and a whole new Mass Effect, like, to me, from the industry that I work in, like, that's, to me, that actually does show like a pretty good level of commitment to the studio for the future, because I mean I'm telling you guys, like games are very expensive. Like
Right.
Yeah.
you know, these are massive productions. And I mean to even see a all new Mass Effect greenlit, you know, by EA, you know, from this, I hate to say new Bioware because honestly, like there are still a lot of people there that are, you know, from the old, you know, Bioware, the veterans. There's still a lot of people. They're just not really talkative, so you know, you don't really see them or hear about them that much. But
They're as well known as your Mike Laidlaws, your
yeah.
Mark
I mean,
Doris. Yeah.
there are like I mean, on the new Mass Effect, the I think I forgot who.
Mike Gamble.
Yeah, Mike Gamble. He mentioned, you know, some names that they worked on the original trilogy, and some of them are directing this new Mass Effect. It's just and people don't, you know, aren't really familiar with their names, but I mean they're there, and so I think EA is committed to. But I'm sure EA is committed to Bioware. They want to see Bioware do well. I mean, it's not like they're just kind of like waiting behind the bushes and be like, all right, it's now the time. You know, let's
Yeah, I have to agree with. I have to agree
I
with
got
you.
the skiff. Like
yeah,
right.
like
I get you.
they're not like rubbing their hands, you know, eager to, all right, when can we cut you guys out? You know, but
I think what I would love to see from starting from Dragon Age 4 is kind of a return to the kind of storytelling that they used to do. A kind of return to like some things that I didn't like about their last two releases. Andromeda, the characters were not as interesting as you would expect from a BioWare game. I also didn't like how with the narrative choices, like the narrative trees that they would do, and they really are like it's a staple of their games, and they really have influenced the way so much of the industry has taken that format and continued it on. You even see it now in like Assassin's Creed with Ubisoft, like Assassin's Creed does it,
and also like the bloat of, you know, Andromeda felt really just the size of it all. It was very like there was a lot of
busy work.
filler content, busy work. Yeah.
But what I didn't like was the wishy-washiness of the dialogue and how your choices really didn't matter in Andromeda. For example, with Shepard and the trilogy, if you would have a decision and your decision would have actual real consequences, there would be real changes. Like there's that Paragon path and then there's that Renegade path, and they were different. Like you could definitely tell, oh, that was a Renegade choice, right? But with Ryder, the protagonist of Andromeda, Ryder's choices were more like, oh, I can be sarcastic or I could be very stoic. And it was just like, but it's still the same choice. There's no other option here. It's still, I'm just being a dick about it, or I'm just being very, you know, bland. But it's just
That's true.
Yeah.
I do want to see BioWare games in the future definitely implementing a lot more like you know, clear, like black and white. Look, you need to make these choices, and it's going to affect the story, you know, like down the line.
Yes.
You know, they definitely need to get back to that, where, you know, and it'll diverge the story into different paths, and, you know, actually be meaningful.
Yeah. And then Andromeda, the story is almost non-existent, or I mean, doesn't make sense very much. It's not very well told. And then I don't. You can't even see your character at all at any point. It's just no. This is not.
You know, at the end of the day, I honestly, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm an optimist, but from a development standpoint, like I'm pretty sure the team there know what they need to do with this new Mass Effect. You know, after Andromeda and everything,
we made it loud and clear.
yeah, they know. They definitely know what they need to do. So it's on the execution now. But I think for one thing, I would bet is that they're going to make it a much tighter experience. You know, instead of being a 80 to 90 hour, you know, open world kind of, you know, busy work, you know, type of game. I can bet. I would bet they're going to make it much tighter. Not linear, but like, you know, more in line with the original trilogy.
Yeah.
In terms of like structure and stuff. So
yes.
Question for you, Shinobi, because you mentioned something about the busy work. I noticed that was kind of a trend a lot last generation with with a lot of single player games. I think a lot of companies became aware that they needed to make their games bigger to like justify the price tag. So they're trying to put in a lot of. I think it's fair to call it bloat. A lot of games have been doing it. I don't think it was necessarily limited to Andromeda. No. Do you think studios, or do you think from like a higher level, they've kind of started to understand that maybe that isn't do you think they're hearing the feedback on that from like in the boardroom and from the decision makers on the people that matter, or is that still something that you feel as creatives it's still going to be kind of an uphill battle?
It probably, all comes down to probably what the IP is, what that specific IP you're talking about, or the games that whatever studio is known for. I don't see Ubisoft, for example, pivoting into something more structured. Like I think, for example, like that's why it's taken so long for us to see like a new Splinter Cell, for example. Because like I bet like they've been trying for years to see how they could morph Splinter Cell into a type of open world kind of along the lines of Watch Dogs or something. I honestly think that's what's taken so long. Because they've just kind of moved on past that linear tight experience. But I don't know. Like I don't know if I would say like developers have learned a lesson. I say that as I talk to a lot of developers, as someone who talks to a lot of developers, like they all want to do the best job they can, right? Like they try to make they try to put quests and scenarios and game plans, games that people value people's time, but it's a hard balance to strike. Like I think God of War, for example, the recent God of War, that did a really good job with that. It was. I wonder. Yeah, it was a lot bigger than previous God of Wars, for example, but it still felt like a tight experience, and all the side stuff felt kind of rewarding and stuff. Had their own narrative and stuff like that. So it's just a tightrope that developers have to walk, man. Like everyone wants to do the best they can.
No, I agree with that. I don't think there's anybody that tries to that intentionally is trying to make anything wear on people, but and I do understand it from from a value justification standpoint. But I do think you bring up a really good point with like God of War, and then you can probably even move that on to some of Sony's other games. I think maybe they found a little bit of a balance in the open world, at least last generation. Hopefully, I guess we'll see what direction they go in going forward. But try to find that balance between something that that gives you some extra to do in this bigger world, but also doesn't really force you to grind 80 hours if you don't, doing this exact same thing. So
it's also, because like player expectations are constantly just changing all the time, like, I would say kind of last gen, 360, PS3 era or Xbox, PS2 era, like people didn't mind paying $50-$60 for something that lasted them 10 hours. It's like everyone was fine with that. It was,
I'm fine with that now.
Oh yeah.
Some of these games are too damn long.
The older I get.
The older we get, we kind of feel the way. But it's like, there's a lot of, every year there's new players and new people that, start playing games and stuff, and like children that grow up and teenagers that become young adults. It's like they have their own expectations of, man, if I don't get 100 hours out of this game, it's not worth it. So it's like, studios and publishers, it's hard to appeal to, as wide of an audience as you can, because you got people that want Assassin's Creed, that spans half the world, and others that want, something like, The Last of Us, a tight, 15, 20 hour, just straight narrative driven experience, so it's just whatever fits that IP, I guess,
I wonder, how would we feel if there was a Splinter Cell or, Sam Fisher kind of game that was like Hitman? You know what I'm saying? Like you have an objective, there's an open world, it's still stealth involved, and he is a spy, You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, good work. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I would be. I think a lot of people would be for that. I think there's
Actually, I
there's
mean,
some
that's
demand for it for that
yeah.
game. Yeah.
I think that's actually. I mean, that in terms of design, like that's probably that sounds more fun than what older Splinter Cell games, which
Yeah.
were still amazing, but they were just straight linear. Like you had one path
One path.
of
Yeah.
how you could proceed through the level, but like kind of like an open mini sandbox like Hitman. Like I think Splinter Cell could really, it could fit that mold definitely for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so Ubisoft, if you're listening, you're welcome.
You're right. Real quick, gentlemen. By the way, great conversation regarding Mass Effect, which Mass Effect, the Legendary Edition, comes out on Friday, so I'm sure you're gonna be seeing a lot of people streaming and playing that game. Some of us will be playing it, revisiting an old friend, as we may refer to the series, and others will be playing this game for the first time, which is really exciting. I'm really excited to see some of the feedback, in social media about, individuals' first experience with Mass Effect and kind of progressing through the series as they take their characters along. But I want to bring up something related to PlayStation, Sony. It's interesting. There was some criticism per se about Sony being kind of quiet. I guess about a month ago now. Probably about a month ago, I think now at this point. And they've been a little more in the discussing things per se. And we saw you guys saw the footage for Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. Holy shit! Like
talking movie, right?
Like what did you guys think about this? Like and like my quick thoughts. Like I saw some of the footage, and there was that trailer video that's going out. I saw on the Twitters, and I was just blown away. I was like, this is just looks amazing, like amazing. I want to go to Nate real quick first. Nate, did you see this trailer? If you did, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, I did see the trailer, and I mean, it affected me really in a really big way. I mean, I was already looking forward to it, and even after gaming for 3 decades now, at this point, this will be the first Ratchet and Clank that I'm actually going to pre-order.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so the last one was really big for me because I played that on PS4 Pro, and it already looked like a Pixar game, just come to life, and I loved it. And it says a lot for me because I always explain to a lot of people I'm an RPG player first. That's my genre. I don't really vibe that well with platformers, but occasionally a game comes along that can supersede, that negativity and just really engross me into a new experience. And that remake did it. And just seeing everything that they're doing with this new one and the trailer and just really utilizing what the PS5 is going to be capable of, going through the different worlds. Like, I thought I had seen how amazing that was when they first revealed it.
Right.
But the later trailer, it just brings it home how incredible it is and how often it gets done, and you see it happen. And I mean, I'm super excited. Like I said, my first pre-order for it. And I think that says a lot as someone who normally, I played all of them. I usually maybe rented them back in the day. Like I said, I eventually got the remake, but like it was never like, I got to get that day one. And like now, that from the moment they showed that game, day one. So yeah, I'm loving it.
No,
can we take a moment just to imagine that we're only 6 months into this generation?
Yeah,
and,
that's a great point.
And that's what we get.
That's what I was gonna say. I mean, it's just stunning. They're putting the rest of us to shame, man. Like it's not fair. It's like, damn it, Insomniac. Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. If you guys just think about that, I mean, we're literally just a few months into the generation, and we're already getting stuff looking like this.
Yeah, that's a great point, Shinobi. Like 6 months into the generation, and look, Returnal, great game, but I don't think at least in my opinion, like Returnal's not like that showcase for the PS5 per se. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, it's a great game. It looks good, but it's not like when I saw Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, I'm like, okay, this is next gen now. Like this, and you're right. Like, excuse me. you're right, Evan Bourne Saga. Like, this is 6 months, man. Like, that's amazing. And I'm like, if this is 6 months, what does next year look like? Or 2 years from now, right?
Yeah.
It's gonna get silly.
Yeah, right. OBM's like, it's gonna get silly.
I actually saw some things. I guess I shouldn't cut in here. I'll wait for some other people to go.
Oh no, you saw things. Go ahead, OBM.
Okay, no. I have a buddy who actually, he's been doing some independent work. He was like showing me some of the. He was showing me some of the character models like he was working on, and like even the facial animations. And this is like by himself, and I'm like, holy shit! Like that looked like last gen. That would have looked like something that would have been, like a Naughty Dog level thing. This is like a one dude. But yeah, I in terms of the Ratchet thing, every single generation, it's always like that game that says, now we're at next gen. Like if you think back to it, I think back over the generations, and on the 360 was kind of walking out of the dungeon and Oblivion, and like every single, and last gen, I feel like it took a little bit longer to get there. I know Rise was pretty, but it didn't totally feel next gen. So like this is probably that first moment for me, although it doesn't matter as much until Gaming 4T can help me get a PS5. I definitely it definitely stands out above everything else. The one thing I do really appreciate about what Insomniac is doing with Ratchet though is how they're bringing this kind of attention to that sort of art style. I don't know about you guys, but I'm expecting to see a lot more, realistic looking games, especially with like the UE5 stuff, this upcoming generation, like I said, even from, smaller studios. But like, I feel like this sort of like the cartoonish sort of family friendly visuals have been kind of lost in the AAA space outside of Nintendo doing not a handful, but doing their games. And this might be something to, potentially rekindle that desire from consumers for this type of game. And that's what I'm really hoping. And I think that's the one thing Sony is really good at doing is sort of creating the thing that everybody needs to like try to chase sometimes. And so like this is the first time I've seen this sort of hype from like the mainstream enthusiast or the mainstream person for this type of game in a while. I don't know if I'm reading that wrong or if I'm not thinking of examples, but it's refreshing to look at. It's not just that it's visually impressive; it's visually refreshing to see something like that.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what. Like no sort of normie that I have shown any of these Ratchet and Clank trailers to, they don't think it's real.
Really?
They're all like, this has to be this is when does the game start? This is a cutscene, right?
Right. It looks like a high end cartoon, like Pixar type thing.
Pixar, yeah.
It looks like Pixar. It really does. I mean, it looks like a Pixar movie. You can just say that. I mean, I've been watching those videos for the last several days. Like, not just the trailer, but like the gameplay video. It's like, just from a development standpoint, it's like I've been trying to find like little blemishes. Like can you see anything? It's like everything is just flawed. It's just flawless. It's not fair. Yeah, and it's also like I gotta just say, like, I love, for all the kind of talk that a lot of people like to say about, Sony just, they don't take risks, or they don't, they'll put out kind of like games that are samey, it's really, I mean, I love that we are getting a full-on massive AAA game like this, Ratchet and Clank, just basically like a playable cartoony Pixar movie with like these, bubbly characters and stuff. And like just a few months ago, we got something like The Last of Us 2, which is like on the whole opposite end of the spectrum. And like, and then you got Dreams earlier in the year, and it's just all these. And you got Returnal, which is on its own, just like in its own genre, kind of, it's just, I know. So personally, like I applaud Sony. I don't think I don't think their games are samey at all. Quite the opposite, actually. So
I'll say it again.
I love that. I love that about their output.
I'll say it again. I've said it every single time that Insomniac is brought up in a discussion. Sony's best studio,
Possibly, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
That's not even close anymore, man.
Yeah.
Like,
It's not just that they drop quality games; it's that they drop quality games at such a fast pace.
And the range, like
And they could
games,
literally
Yeah.
go. They could go do first person shooting again. They could do. They're taking platforming to another level. They got Spider-Man. I mean, just like both.
And they nailed that too. I mean, they
nailed it, and then
Yeah.
nailed it even harder. Pause with Miles Morales. It's just, and I know the other side of the argument is always, but Naughty Dog makes like a better quality game, and I don't disagree with that. But by the time Naughty Dog drops one game, Insomniac has dropped 3.
Yeah,
and there's no duds in that 3.
Yeah,
They're
all great games, right? So it's just like I think that was like literally the most underrated pickup that any of these platforms could have made when they acquired Insomniac. It was just a no-brainer.
Real quick, gentlemen. Gaming Forte has arrived. I'm gonna give my man Gaming Fairway Forte a proper intro. Forte, what's going on, sir?
What up, though? How you guys doing today? You're having a riveted conversation.
Oh, you sound like you just woke up.
Yeah, did you just wake up? I know you were cutting the grass.
No.
Man.
I just came from Walmart.
He's working hard trying to find me that PS5.
Yeah, I just came from Walmart, man. Walmart,
You
and
legit
cutting
sound tired,
grass.
man. Walmart stress you out, Forte?
You said what?
Did Walmart stress you out? The line's long?
No, my lawn stressed me out, and then Walmart was just the icing on the cake.
Oh man.
How often are you cutting your grass, man? I feel like you cut your grass like every other day. Are you one of those guys?
I cut it once a week.
Are you one of those guys that like get down on like your hands and knees and you're like measuring how long the grass is?
You got the clippers out. You clipping it. The pH level of my grass. I absolutely do.
Are you really checking pH level on your grass?
Yes.
You know what? That's why your grass looks the way it does, sir. And I applaud you for that. I applaud you.
Yeah, man. Shoot, I pay $300 every year for my grass to stay the way it is.
I hear that, Forte.
So here's a question for everybody.
But I cut it once. I cut it once a week, Slow-Mo. Once a week, either Tuesday or Wednesday every week.
Nice. Go ahead, Evan Ward.
No, so after Ratchet drops, how long do we think before we see Insomniac's next game, or do we think they go on a little bit of a hiatus to build the next thing?
You're going to see a game from Insomniac next year.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a game.
I don't think
it's either going to be either Resistance or they have been dropping a lot of hints about Resistance. It's either going to be Resistance that they've been secretly working on this entire time. If that's not it, then you probably won't see a game from them next year, but you'll see a game from them in 2023, and it'll probably be Spider-Man 2.
I think 2023. I maybe Resistance. I could see that maybe, because they have been teasing it, and it's feasible that obviously they have multiple teams, right? They could probably.
They have a lot of teams.
Yeah, I mean, and who knows? And what about? Let me ask you guys something else. What about Sunset Overdrive? Like, they.
I think we might get a.
Can we get a sequel?
Remaster of that on PlayStation, exclusive to PlayStation. But they don't really need to do that. They can outsource that to someone else, I think.
Yeah. That's probably a smart move.
I do think that they may be working on a Sunset Overdrive 2 or Resist, because like Drew Murray left them to go to the Initiative. And then he left the Initiative to go back to Insomniac. Now, people know him more famously for being the lead director for Sunset Overdrive, but he also worked on like Resistance 1 and 3. So he's done a lot of work over like 20 years with Insomniac. He's worked on a lot of games, and I feel like for him to leave the Initiative before they even dropped their first game to go back to the studio that he's had literally his entire career at, it had to been something that he's passionate about, And I don't know. This is my me theorizing here. I don't know the guy, right? But just like, if I'm leaving a new job to go back to my old job, it's got to be something that I really feel like personal about. And I think, maybe a game he's already worked on before might just be that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point.
I think, this isn't like any insider info or anything, but like I think personally, like I think they're just all in on Spider-Man 2 right now.
Hey,
Like I just think like 90% of that studio is just all hands on deck on Spider-Man 2 right now, because they right now, with the way development works, like they probably have a small team now, kind of polishing up and putting the final touches on Ratchet and Clank, and they're probably transitioning a lot of that Ratchet and Clank team over to whatever else they're working on, which is definitely Spider-Man 2, obviously. We know that's coming. But
which makes sense.
Yeah, but in terms of like the timeline, like I don't, again, like this isn't any like insider info, but like I don't know if they'll be if they have time to work on a new Resistance, because the last few years, I mean, they put out Spider-Man in 2018,
right?
And during that time, I mean, because Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is coming out now, I mean, you can imagine I would probably imagine like a few months prior to Spider-Man shipping, they probably started on Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and at the same time, they're working on Miles Morales, which, I mean, just those two by themselves, like they would, and they probably had a small incubation team on Spider-Man 2, but like just those projects themselves, like I can't see where a all new Resistance would like fit in there in terms of like scheduling, in terms of manpower. So I personally, like I would imagine we'll probably get a reveal of a new Spider-Man next year, with probably a target of like 2023 or something, and don't discount, PSVR, 2, I guess, PSVR 2, because Insomniac has put out, VR games in the past, good ones.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And that's the reason why I wouldn't discount them coming out with a game next year.
Yeah.
If you look at the number of games releases that they have since like 2015, it's more than some studios have in their entire existence. It's like them going from VR games to full-fledged AAA console releases to smaller yet really high quality and actually better gameplay than the previous game, kind of smaller games like Miles Morales. It's just, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they just showed up at E3 and was like, bam. Well, not E3-ish, because Sony don't do E3, but like just here's another one for you, and they haven't dropped the one we've been talking about yet, but here it is. It's just,
the reason I think that this is my again, like I'm just brainstorming, but like the reason I think they might probably have a VR project in the works is because they're one of, if not Sony, well, one of Sony's only like major first party studios that has VR experience. Like they've put out a bunch of VR games.
Yeah.
So Sony's probably going to push PSVR 2 next year, and I could imagine like, hey, they could have something ready to launch with it. And it's something that will really pull people in. What better than, hey, this brand new AAA VR game from Insomniac? It's
like their own Half-Life Alyx kind of deal. Something that's like a major AAA endeavor on VR, especially considering like they had some VR studios that were based in Europe that they shut down over the past few years. So you kind of want something to launch PSVR 2 with. Like you don't want to just like, well, here's this new hardware with the same games that were already out on PS. No, you want to kind of launch it with the same way Steam did with the Index. Like I don't think the Index, $1,000 VR headset, would have sold out the way it did if there wasn't a major game that made people go, oh, I've been waiting for Half-Life for years.
Speaking of Resistance, Resistance VR, who knows? I mean, that could be big.
Hey, Shinobi, I think it's great, by the way, that you prefaced your statements with, this is not insider info, because as you know, somebody will write an article that Shinobi on BRAP said this, and this. I mean, we've seen it. I mean, you've tweeted stuff, and they're, within hours, there's articles.
I want to make that absolutely clear. I'm just brainstorming. Like I'm throwing it out there. I have no idea what they're doing. So please don't write anything like that.
Yeah, you are using your industry experience to make very informed.
I'm just kind of thinking of what I could realistically, see of them doing.
Yeah. You know, the other thing too that's kind of come out of outside of Ratchet and Clank, there was that Wired article where Sony's kind of talking a little bit more about what they're working on. So it sounds like 25 games in development for PlayStation 5. Out of those 25, 15 are new games.
I think he said half, or like nearly half,
or nearly half.
Like
yeah, I don't know where I got 15. I said 15.
Yeah.
So half. I probably need to change it in the title then.
That's already huge.
Yeah, but still, I mean, like I was
a lot, yeah.
And considering like a lot of the concern and talk that was happening about a month ago, is regarding, is Jim Ryan the right guy to lead Sony? Is Sony in trouble? Or they have they lost their way? There's some people like with some diehard Sony fans who had legitimate concerns. About
BRAP, was it diehard Sony fans, or was it kind of like Xbox guys?
It was both, but it's just dramatic Twitter.
Probably both,
dramatic Twitter users that overreact to every moment.
But some of it was, there were some valid, like I saw some valid concerns, like from people.
I think BRAP's talking about himself, y'all.
No, I'm not talking about myself. No, but but with that being said, I mean, still like hearing 25 games in development, half of those being new titles, and then coupled with things like Ratchet and Clank, I gotta say, like, I mean, Sony.
Right.
I thought Sony was making less bigger games, and I mean all bigger games and focusing less on smaller games. So,
well, some of these games are definitely not first party. So
that's what I'm saying. There definitely can't be first party. They don't even got
like
25
Jade
studios.
Raymond's game that is like they probably not even out of pre-production with that since she just started.
But I think
her new studio.
The game ain't coming out to the end of the generation.
I think, and it's funny. Like I think Jeff Grubb was talking about this on his show. Like when he talks about games that Sony publishes, right? From for like with Housemarque, right? Housemarque's not a Sony-owned studio, but they publish. They're all intents and purposes, is basically a first-party game because Sony.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like a lot of people say, because they're independent developers or whatever. It's not first-party. So from a development standpoint, because Sony, for like Housemarque, for example, Sony funded that production. I mean, they for all intents and purposes, it's a Sony game because Sony's footing the bill. So like with that comes probably a contract agreement where hey, we own this IP name. This is ours, so we can do with it what we want with it in the future, and in return we'll fund this for you. So that game that is now a first party intellectual property, like for Sony. So when they're saying we got 25 games from us, from PlayStation, they mean first party games. Doesn't necessarily mean from all of our first party studios. It just means there are 25 games in development that we are publishing, that we are footing the bill ourselves for. Like we're funding this. So Jade, I don't know what Jade Raymond's, what that Havens game, like what the contract looks like there. Again, like I'm just throwing it out there. Like for example, Insomniac retain the IP rights to Sunset Overdrive, even though Microsoft published it. That was unique to them. That was unique to that agreement, unique to that project. So it could be that Haven Studios game or whatever it is, it could be like that, where they reached an agreement with Sony that hey, we'll agree to make this game exclusive for PlayStation, but we retain the rights to the IP, and Sony agreed, which I don't imagine what happened, because Sony is very they're not protective, but they're very like, hey, if we fund your game, we get the IP.
No, they're extremely protective.
But it could very well be very similar to how they did things with Kojima. With Kojima, very first game with his new studio, and the IP, I don't know if he retained the IP or not, but that game is I mean, he used their game engine for it. And it also showed up on PC and Epic Game Store and Steam and all that. So it could very well be like one of those cases where all Sony cares about is whether it's console exclusive or not. Yeah. So just as long as it's not on my competition, Xbox's console is like, hey, we're fine. What you want our engine? How much budget do you need that kind of stuff. There's also that other studio that's brand new that from a lot of some of the developers from Destiny, and it's like supposed to be a esports PvP shooter kind of game. I can't remember the name of the studio, but like they're brand new and they're coming up with a game that's going to be PvP centric. So there's a lot of stuff in there that's where you get the whole half of these are new IP. Because it's going to be coming from, like they said they were going to do this. They said they were going to, for their actual first party studios that they own, they were going to focus more on the AAA blockbuster big budget stuff that they are experts at. It's their expertise. They give you. They even have a full studio. That's all that studio does is make the cinematics better. I mean, that's literally all they do. That's a laser focus on a certain kind of development and a certain way to do your game, so that people know, that's a PlayStation game. But in order to do that, they had to maybe let go some of the smaller things that I personally enjoyed and I found extremely unique, like Gravity Rush, stuff like that, right? But they are supplementing that with more of their other deals that they'll do with other third-party developers that may be independent, but they're going to do exclusive work for us. And so the end result is you get the same amount of games. It's just that the level where they shift their resources to may be different this time around than it was before.
Well, you bring up some good points. Some of the one thing I saw, I was actually reading that comment from Herman. And by the way, I think the issue with Jim Ryan, nobody expected Sony to stop making great games, or games that look batshit crazy, and with some of the studios they had. I think the entire issue with him is just kind of how disconnected he was from the consumer and speaking to them. And you saw like Herman Hulst kind of come out here and almost like reading the room. Like when you look at the comments he said, it's really almost to address indirectly the Schreier piece, because when he spoke, he said like there's an incredible amount of variety originating from different regions, big, small, different genres. And if you remember, that article is basically saying, hey, they're all going to be the same big budget type of game. And so this was like his way of like talking like clapping back a little bit at the article without actually directly addressing the article. And it was a smart thing. Like, this is kind of what I think a lot of people were saying that Sony was missing. It's not that we expect them to stop making, their studios are going to forget how to make games, or they're going to stop funding them. It was just really, they weren't doing a real good job like they had in the past. Like, they've always been really good at connecting to their core enthusiasts, and that's one of the reasons they have this insane loyalty that from generation to generation. No matter what the cost of a PlayStation is, there is a certain amount of tens of millions of people that are going to be there regardless, because they trust the brand, and they've been missing that person. And maybe Hulst is now trying to fill that, trying to step in and be that person. I don't know if he is. I haven't heard him outside of this, but this seems like a good start. Yeah.
Hire The Rock, right?
Yeah, that's what you need.
I mean, he's not new to the console space. I mean, he was there for the unveiling of the original Xbox, right? So,
Yeah. Remember when he told Bill Gates it doesn't matter?
Yeah,
That's the mic from it.
Yeah, that was great. Hey, Rock's got to get stage presence, so.
Yeah. Good thing in there, Enrique. If this fails, just hire The Rock.
Yeah, I think the other thing that was kind of unique about what Herman Hulst was talking about, or this article with Wired, was that the PlayStation 5, we know that it's outpacing the PlayStation 4, which is very impressive. And I think obviously we know about the demand issues. I think they're saying that demand or there will be supply shortages going into next year, which is like, holy shit, I can't believe. Like, I read that, I'm like, wow, that sucks. But that being said, like a game like Ratchet and Clank, I think is really going to move the needle for them. Really going to drive that that demand for that particular console. But I thought was interesting is that they're saying 11% more game units have been sold during the PlayStation 5's first 5 months than the PlayStation 4. And that's actually pretty impressive considering.
I didn't get that. So did they mean like actual like individual games being sold?
It just says game units. I'm assuming.
I imagine that means
games.
Yeah.
But they didn't give any other details than that. I mean, they also did say that user gameplay time was 20% higher in March 2021 than the year prior. But I mean, look, I mean, it's just very interesting things in terms of consumption, and you think about like the amount of the shortages that we're seeing with PlayStation 5. Like OBM's trying to get a PlayStation 5 right now. Very hard for him to find one. Hopefully, Gaming Forte. Hopefully, sir, you can come in. Come through for our good. No pressure there, Forte. You can come through for our good buddy Obum.
He's got to cut his grass.
He can get his PlayStation. What's it? You got to cut his grass.
Yeah, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he's got a new house to take care of. I don't want to put any pressure on him.
You can cut my grass. You definitely get one faster.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, just interesting in terms of what they have planned. I mean, I think, I think about what Jim Ryan said. I mean, he did say, and I'm paraphrasing here, something to the extent that like we're gonna let the games do the talking. Like, and he was really adamant about we got to get PlayStation 5 into the hands of people as quickly as possible. And the one way you do that is obviously by putting out, content and really good content at that too. Content.
So, I mean,
the needle.
Even like 6 months into this thing, people are hyped as hell. Like, I mean, they want to strike when the iron's hot. I mean, like they definitely want to get as many PS5s out there because, I mean, as soon as they're available online, within a minute, I mean, they're gone.
Yeah, they are. Yeah,
goddamn scalpers.
Yeah.
So let me ask you,
scalpers.
Let me ask you guys I guess two questions. First, does 25 projects in various stages of production, does that seem like a large number, or is that like what it should be right now? Because
a number,
is that number of games in production, is that unexpected, I guess?
To me, it's just a number until I see games behind them.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to really say without knowing like
what they are.
The timeline.
Yeah, the timeline.
It could, like, for all intents and purposes, that number could include projects that were literally just greenlit like last week. Like
it could also be stuff that won't even make it into this generation.
Yeah, I mean, but for all intents and purposes, I mean, the number I saw, that it's great on the face of things. I mean, like 25. That's a lot of exclusive games to expect from PlayStation Studios. I mean, that's just by itself. I mean, at least
somebody was in a boardroom somewhere and they were talking about their messaging and they were like, "Yo, what can we say to get some message, some news out there?"
Why are you downplaying this, sir?
Yeah, what can we do? What can we do? Oh, you know what? Let's we ain't got to tell people what games they are, but we can just tell people like, "Yo,
PlayStation." Why would they tell anyone what games they are?
I didn't just hear what I said. I said they're not going to tell people. No. I just said they're not going to tell people. I said they're going to go. They're sitting in a boardroom. They're wondering what kind of message they put out there.
What you said, it was
like you shut up because you don't even know.
Don't tell me to shut up. You shut up.
Forte,
I don't understand.
I literally was just. I was. You wouldn't let nobody finish the conversation. I literally. I can talk more than you can because I got a bigger mouth.
You try to downplay this.
Forte needs a nap, man.
Forte does not need a nap. Forte had a nap already. He naps every day. He does all this stuff.
He need to go back to sleep.
Energy.
Forte's grouchy.
I mean, I'm gonna need you to eat a Snickers bar because you up here acting like the Grinch right now.
You need some milk.
No, first of all I was saying is they were sitting in the boardroom. They probably were saying, "What can we do to get some messaging out here?" Oh, let's just tell people that we got 25 games in development from PlayStation. That's a really good number to put out there, and it gets people excited. Like, see, PlayStation's focusing on first party. That's all I was saying. And you wanted to jump out my mouth.
Because you didn't let
nobody get a chance to finish their conversation. conversation. You just wanted to jump in.
Wait, Forte, you do sound like you're trying to downplay this a little bit, though.
I wasn't trying to downplay nothing.
You're like, they went to a boardroom and they know they got nothing else to say.
No, I was just saying they went into a boardroom and they were sitting there like, just think about a bunch of old men in the boardroom trying to figure out how to make gamers happy.
Oh my
think about it. Think what that conversation probably sounds like.
All right.
Like,
that's
they
a better
probably looked at each other
visual.
like, yo, Jimmy, what do you think we can do?
I do agree though. Like some of these games may or may not come to fruition too. Like I think that's like what Shinobi was saying. Like that's a possibility. But I do.
Well, when have you ever heard me downplay anything? Come on now. I don't
What?
I don't downplay anything.
All
I just
right,
go off
I'm not gonna say anything else.
Yes, you can. Go ahead.
No, you know what? All right,
Please,
all right.
I'm waiting.
He already emotional, so I'm just
No, I know,
Yeah.
please, because if you don't do it today, I'm gonna make sure you bring it up tomorrow.
All right. Well, I mean, hey, but first of all, you already knew I was going to bring it up tomorrow. That is a foregone conclusion, sir.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Sure.
yeah. Go ahead,
good.
Enrique.
Look, no, I was gonna say like
You may have your show back, Enrique.
I think
Slumber's
Everboard
with
was
his
asking
feelings
like
again.
I think Everboard.
Why am I in my film? You the one who got all upset, man.
I was
Told
just
me
trying to
shut
finish
up
my
and
point.
everything.
Hey,
I
Shinobi,
mean, it was great.
Shinobi, and Nate, and Evermore. This is a preview to and what OBM. This is a preview to DPS tomorrow night, 9 p.m.
I just
Eastern time.
want you to know. Shush.
So part two of that
Go ahead,
question is, once we're on the other side of the T virus, right, and everybody's going outside again, do we think that we'll see like this kind of demand just across the board? And the reason I'm asking that question is because I see so much like investment, and we see all of this consolidation of the industry and things like that. But I wonder if like the shareholders that are greenlighting these things are looking at the numbers now, and maybe they'll get cold feet when people are outside again and maybe not playing games, or has the bell already been rung and then the market has just expanded?
There's actually research. There's actually been some research on that. I don't know if you guys are aware. Like Netflix did some studies because during the pandemic they acquired obviously a lot of subscriptions, and like after they served, like some of the results came back, like their stock went up like I think 25 billion market cap in like a day after when they kind of learned that people were going to stay with these services. I think. There's a couple of aspects of it. A lot of this growth was projected before the pandemic. It just wasn't supposed to be this fast. And part of the reason is because like the accessibility and convenience of gaming, like a lot of the walls that have always been up around it worldwide are coming down. And so that's where a lot of the investment was already starting to come from. I do think it's been sped up, but once gaming becomes part of people's lifestyles, I think what they've seen now is that people generally it's not like they pick up this hobby and then they stop it and never go back to it again. Like generally gaming's been a very sticky kind of like an area to consume. So even more so than I think TV and movies, it's just something that once it becomes part of your life, people just don't give it back up. So I do think that there will be a little bit of slowdown. And I think that Microsoft even mentioned that in their last, their somewhere in the projections. They do expect that once the pandemic does end, there will be like a little bit of bounce back. But over the long term, that trajectory is not going to go away. Like they still expect gaming to grow significantly over the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think even if the pandemic never happened, like I mean, we'd still see these kind of numbers, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have underestimated how pervasive and widespread gaming has become over time. And I always tell people a lot of times that I've always been the go-to person everywhere I go since high school. I've always been the dude. I got the PSP, I got the Game Boy Advance SP, I got everything. When it's new, I got it, and if you want it, I'll tell you how to get it. I'll tell you what's the best way to the best thing on the block. I'm that guy. And everybody knows it. And I have put more people on to gaming. And I don't mean like I want a Nintendo DS for my kid. No, I mean I want the OLED, I want the PS5, I want the Series X, and I want the PC. I'm talking people are coming to me that haven't even touched gaming before and are like, I gotta have it. This is amazing. they're seeing different things or being exposed in different ways to this platform, whether it's through the Nintendo Switch for its mobility, the hype, obviously, the hype before the PS5 even came out, all the random jokes on Twitter about, getting my man a PS5 jokes. It's just a lot bigger than I think a lot of people realize. And I've built more computers before the pandemic. I built more computers for people than I have in the past 10 years of PC gaming. So that was growing in and of itself. And then not only that, but like I said, I had another person while we were building a computer for his son. He had a very, and this is where I'd sell people, and this is why I think you're right. One bad mother, where you're right that people are not just going to pick it up and stop. The problem is people just didn't know before,
right?
So now that they got it in them and they get to see how amazing it is, because we've all shared this hobby for a long time. A lot of us are the hardcore, but a good example is, like I said, he was here while we were working on the PC for his son, and he saw me playing Detroit Become Human. And his perspective, of gaming was like, oh yeah, that's that thing my kid does with the Fortnite and the, it's crazy, and he always asks people for money and he wants skins. That was his perception. But then he saw me playing that game. He was like, what is this? This is incredible. This looks amazing. It looks like you're playing a movie. And I'm like, oh, there's more of this. There's games with stories far beyond anything you could imagine, with character development and world building that can take you to entirely different places. And like, we know this because, we're all big gamers, but a lot of people just haven't had a chance to sit down and experience that. And the next day, that guy called me. He bought a 4K TV and a PS4 Pro the next day. Guy that never game ever.
Wow.
And it's like,
and you bring up some good points about like the storytelling and just the kind of the way that people can get away from real life and engage in other worlds and things. And I know we don't have a lot of time right now. I would love to like have, pick Shinobi's brain on kind of where he thinks things are going from that standpoint, because, I see all these trends with the kind of the evolution of the tools, even like development environments for like independent developers. And I think it's like more democratized. Like there's just going to be, this is a way, for people to tell their stories, right? Like, or to connect creatively, that I don't know that we've ever seen in any other medium. Like you could have a great idea to write a book or to make a movie, but how do you really, get that out there, in front of people and really bring it to life? You need a lot of support, right? Like if you not anybody can just go out there and make a movie, but like I now am seeing like this potential for like basically garage bands of developers, and that's not going to, obviously, that scales up, right? Like, so AAA is going to continue to be able to do crazy stuff, but there's going to be opportunities for people that have these stories in their mind and things like that, like would never be in a position to go get funding to do a film, but they're going to be, but without ever, opening up a building, they're going to be able to access like, UE5 or some free tools, at least on the front end, and, be able to access developer kits in the cloud and without, like I said, like never even renting a building, not having to take out a massive, life loan. And I know somebody's doing this like on the side. He's like a contractor, but he's also doing his own studio, his own thing on the side. Like it's just, to me, this is like one of the most exciting, underrated things about next generation. And I keep telling everybody, don't take your eyes off of like that. A lot of the best games of this generation are from studios you haven't even heard of yet. They're just going to, and that, so it's a really exciting time from that standpoint. And then you combine that with like how other countries are now starting to understand what this gaming industry can do from a creative standpoint, and they're just discovering it, and it's just opening up everything from everywhere. So to Everborn, to kind of like conclude on your statement there, keep in mind that these corporations, when they're investing, that especially these big corporations, they're thinking 5 years, 10 years down the road. They're not thinking of, like, hey, like the turnaround like next year. So but overall, I'm just so excited for the industry, just kind of like based on all that stuff. And Shinobi, I'm going to let you speak on that because you would know more than anybody here about that kind of stuff.
Oh, I mean, honestly, I was literally just about to say, like, that was very well said on your part. I mean, I couldn't have said it better myself. Like, I mean, I'm like, one of the most exciting things about this is because there's so many pathways and avenues into game development now. Like you said, I mean, you have people making games inside of dreams now.
Yep.
I mean, that's right there. That's just mind blowing. I mean, that wouldn't even been possible 5 years ago. So I mean, it's super exciting because now it's like we're hopefully, next several years, and within the next decade, like, we're gonna start seeing games from the creative minds of people, like, from India or China or like Brazil, or like all over the world. Because I can't wait to see like what people from around the world come up with. So like I said, like you said it very well. I'm just next 10 years, I think, is going to be like a huge breakout for a lot of different countries for their game development scene. So yeah. I'm keeping an eye on like what the global game dev scene looks like. So
that's a great point, Shelby. I mean, we're starting to see stuff come out of China, like was it Wukong? I always forget the title of that game.
Wuhan.
Black Myth Wukong.
Yes, thank you.
That looks stunning. My God.
It does.
From Game Science.
Yeah. And there was the other game, Slow-Mo, that we just saw recently.
Lost Soul Aside.
Yeah, thank you. There's some really cool stuff coming globally. You're right, Shinobi. I think it gets me, like, as a gamer, just personally, just really, really, really get me excited. So, I do want to transition to kind of the last topic here this evening. I don't think I'll get to E3 Xbox details. I may save that for a BRAP rant this Saturday, but it's just a conversation that's been happening on the Twitters.
Is it that very nice looking document that somebody definitely fabricated?
No, we're not gonna talk. No, we're not. No, okay. No, we're not gonna talk about the fabric. Like, I don't understand why people do that, and some people actually believed it, by the way, which is.
That always happens. Don't even fight. Don't fight it. Just
don't fight it. Exactly.
It's that time of year for it.
Yeah. Yep. But it is that time of year. As we get closer to E3, we're going to see more stuff like that, right? Like the leak, set sheet for Xbox E3 presentation, Phil Spencer's notes. We're going to see all that stuff come out as we get closer to E3 the next couple of weeks. So, but this conversation has kind of gone around Twitter a little bit, and something that Evan Bourne and I have talked about in DM, and we talked about it with Dustin from Last Stand Media this past Saturday about making Halo great again, and kind of the conversation around Halo is with Halo Infinite. Does Halo Infinite need to be great? Should the expectation of gamers be like, what, this game, if it's not a 9 or game of the year, if it's not the best Halo, and since I guess Halo, I would say since Bungie Halos, does that take away from the luster of the franchise? These are conversations that are happening. I think they're interesting conversations. But I'm going to go to you, Evan Bourne, because, again, we kind of talked about this a little bit on DM, and I know you and Slomo were talking about this on Twitter. You kind of have a conversation, dialogue about this. So please share your thoughts about Halo Infinite and what do you think it needs to be what it needs to do.
This might have been my most popular tweet, which was if Halo Infinite doesn't solve climate change and end world hunger, then it's a total flop, right? And I think the sort of well has been sort of poisoned around it almost, because when I go into anything, right, and I'll give you an example. I went into Endgame saying, if they do not give the Hulk his redemption scene where he gets to fight Thanos, then the movie was a failure. And at the end of the movie, I was not happy. I didn't even look at the fact that Captain America got Thor's hammer. I didn't look at any of that. I was just thinking, as a Hulk fan, the Hulk never got his moment. And I think I did myself a disservice with that. So when I go into anything, once you set these prerequisites about what something has to be, and that thing has nothing to do with you actually playing the game, I think we get into a bad place, right? I don't think so. Then the question becomes: is Microsoft or 343, are they making this thing for Halo fans, or are they making it to be the next Fortnite or Warzone, right? And we've seen the coalition do this, right? And I think it's to their detriment, which is they're way too attentive to the loud fans of Gears. And I feel like that's why Gears still kind of, as beautiful as it is, and I love the way they've what they've done with the story. I love what they're doing with Kate. I love all of that. But Gears, I think, could be bigger if they tried to sort of appeal it to a more broad audience, right? And I think the problem that they face is, are we going to, do we want to please the Halo fans, or is this only about getting a game of the year, right? And I think those are two. I think those are two different answers. And the other problem is, the other problem is like, there's a lot of people that are kind of, they already are sour on the franchise, and they're saying, if you don't make me unsour, like, I already don't like you, if you don't make me like you, then you failed, right? And I think that there's no way that Halo will look as good as Ratchet and Clank, and I don't think that is because the Xbox is not, hardware is not capable of doing that. I just think that the nature of the game, it is not going to be that. I don't think it will be a graphical showcase. I think that Hellblade will be a graphical showcase whenever the hell that comes out, or any of their other games, right? So we know it's not going to be a graphical showcase, but then we say, if it's not, then it's a failure. But you know that it's not going to be that. So it's kind of like preemptively setting up these barriers that you know it's not going to be, instead of enjoying the game. So I think their goal should be to make the best, and I'm parroting you right now, Slow-Mo, make the best Halo game that 343 has ever made. Stop chasing Bungie, right? Just, the game needs to have a good story, sticky multiplayer, and a strong campaign. That's what it needs to do. I think it's gonna sell like hotcakes anyway, just because, like, forget about what people will tell you on Twitter. Xbox guys are starving for a AAA game, and they're all going to buy it. So it's going to sell. Every Halo is going to sell. I don't think sales will be the issue. So the question is, will 343 actually be able to deliver a story that is on par with Halo 4? Because that is one of my favorite stories. That is where they humanized Master Chief, right? And will they have a sticky multiplayer that is, I say they should go for Halo fans on the multiplayer, but we'll see, because I think the people that play Halo play it specifically because it is not like COD.
Yeah, it's right? Still its only thing. There's still nothing else in the market that is like Halo. And Everborn, you bring up a lot of good points. So I won't repeat a lot of this stuff, but I would reiterate that what you said about the, what is a game of the year and what is great for Halo fans aren't necessarily the exact same thing. I do think now that Microsoft has 23 studios and a bunch of teams, they don't need Halo to be the end all be all. They don't need it to appeal to God of War fans. The Halo base, and I mentioned this actually on Luca, a few days ago, was, they had 10 million people on PC that got the Master Chief Collection. There's still a big fan base for that game, because it does it does stand out from everything else. There really isn't a lot of times when Halo tries to take those steps to evolve, it starts to look a little bit more like what else is out there. And I'm actually a pretty big fan of how Halo 5 plays. I didn't like the campaign very much, but how it plays, and especially multiplayer. But again, I think it's okay to say that, we are going to focus on the foundation, on the Halo fan first, and then try to evolve later on from there. And I think they will. They got a 10-year plan, but I think they're smart right now in that they're really trying to. If you've read all their updates, they are really focused on the Halo fan right now. And to your point, like, it's not going to look like a Sony game. But again, it comes down, and I know Shinobi could probably elaborate on this stuff, but a lot of that comes down to development priorities, right? Like if you're trying to make a sandbox that that runs at a high frames per second and has like AI and stuff going on, you don't put as much into like textures. You don't have animations that maybe get in the way of of the core game, the combat, right? That makes it feel like Halo. Like I heard people say that about like some of the animations even from last year's demo. It's like, they still animate like Halo. It's like, you want it to still play like Halo. So and I don't think there's anything wrong with that anymore. I think that's okay for people that are no longer Halo fans to maybe accept that this isn't going to be that moment, that God of War type of moment. And to be honest, us Halo fans don't necessarily, and I'm a huge Halo fan. Actually, in fact, I do a Halo show. It's going to be on tomorrow. Us Halo fans don't necessarily want it to try to do that reinvention. We want it to evolve. We want it to be different, to evolve certain aspects of the sandbox and things like that. But don't necessarily want that remake that I think that a lot of the critics who maybe are fatigued from Halo, or even just people that are not, that have outgrown it. And Enrique, we talked about this too. Like, you used to be a big Halo fan, but now other games really speak to you more. Like this may not be the thing that's trying to get you back, at least not right now, right? Like this is reaching out to the base first.
I'm kind of, I'm wondering, I'm curious because you guys mentioned this, like what makes it being Game of the Year caliber and being a great Halo game? What makes those mutually exclusive? Because I don't see why it can't be both. Right? Am I making
Shinobi,
Shinobi, that's a good question.
I agree with you, Shinobi. Like, it could be a Halo game, but it could be an epic Halo game. Like, I don't think those are mutually exclusive.
Is there any indication that it's not going to be an epic game? Is there any indication that it's not going to be?
I will say yes. I will say that.
Well, define what you mean by epic.
I will
say it.
I will say epic if you go back and you play like Halo Reach, or you play Combat Evolved, or Halo 2, or Halo 3. Those games, the very compelling story, great multiplayer. It was a complete package. And I just don't think, Halo 4, great story, missed multiplayer. Halo 5, great multiplayer, missed story. And then you see the development woes and they are there. You look at 343. There's issues there internally. It's been well documented. We saw what they showed this last summer, which was, look. I said this, I think to you, Evan Bourne. I've said this to OBM and others on Twitter. Like, Microsoft, Halo is synonymous with Xbox. Like it is, Halo is to Xbox what Mario is to Nintendo, more or less, right? Exactly. And you never hear Mario fans saying, well, I don't know, it's just a Mario game for Mario fans.
So I'd like to add a little bit more light to that, because I think it is a really, really good question. And I think it's something that some people misunderstand. Halo fans still expect this to be a great Halo game. We do know, and Everborn mentioned it, that when they changed too much about the core, the fans don't like it. And when I talk about like the Game of the Year thing, if you think about what critics look for in a Game of the Year, they're generally looking for something that moves the medium forward from like a storytelling, or something that something
I don't mean to interrupt you.
Okay.
I agree with that to an extent, but I also think it's, at the end of the day, games borrow from other games like formulas, right? I think it's all on how you execute that. the execution of the formula.
You're 100% right, Enrique. But I think the point that gets lost here is I don't think if anyone thinks that anyone that says they don't care about whether it gets Game of the Year, like there's no Halo fan that is not going to be hard on 343. They will be the hardest on them. So if anyone thinks that the hardcore Halo fans is not going to give them shit if they do not deliver, the point that I am trying to make is we play games. Right? We don't play Game of the Year. We don't play stats. We don't play Twitter. We play games. And that is what you should judge a game by. Is it a good game when you play it? That is all. And if we get away from that, I feel like it's a problem.
I don't disagree with that, but I think you can have I think you can have a conversation around quality. And I think that's a fair conversation to have because because if you look at like the track record of the Halo franchise, right? I think, yeah, it's one thing to say, hey, you know what? I enjoy the game? Yes, et cetera, et cetera. I think you could have that conversation. But I also think there's another conversation to be had, and that's the quality piece. And I think you can have that conversation because we have metrics per se that show that, hey, if you compare, the game, the franchise compared to when it was under Bungie, I mean, you see, there's kind of that fall off in terms of quality. I mean, and it's not to say that
let me ask you this:
enjoy that game, but I do think there's something to be said. Because,
do you think Halo 5? I know that a lot of people didn't like the story, but do you think when you look at the production value of Halo 5, do you think that is not a quality game?
It was a good game.
Production value.
Look, production value. It was a quality game, like cutscenes quality. But again, I mean, like, it's not, you're judging a game in its totality. It's not just, were the cutscenes good or
no, but the gameplay, right? Like, so, and this is the other thing that's super weird to me.
But remember though, like Halo isn't just gameplay though. It's one facet of Halo's always been gameplay.
So we've agreed
it's also been story.
So you had gameplay and you had cutscenes and you had multiplayer. Story is the problem, and I can tell you a lot of people that will look at The Last of Us 2 and absolutely love it. Technical marvel, amazing. It's the game of the generation, and they still hated the story. Right? So some people hated it, right? I'm just saying there are people that hated the story.
But we're also talking about, again, the body of work of the Halo franchise. And this is why I always bring up Mario. Like, no one, if the quality of Mario ever fell off, people would talk about it. People would be like, "Holy shit!" Like,
I think that's the thing, Enrique. Like, Halo is unique because it's not like just some average run of the mill IP that kind of comes and goes every couple of years. It's like it is Xbox's tentpole like pillar IP. Like it is the mascot of Xbox. So I think like it all comes down to like what Microsoft and 343 see as a success. Like I think by most people's metrics, Halo 4 and Halo 5, like I'm a huge Halo fan. Halo Combat Evolved is in my top 10 like all-time games. I adore it. I still do. To me, it's still my favorite in the series.
Same here.
Yeah. I think others play better, but it's like, again, going back to that Mass Effect conversation, the original's still my favorite. But so like there's a metric that Xbox and 343 are probably going to look at. Like they don't want to just put out another Halo 4 and Halo 5. Like those were good games. I enjoyed those. But when you look back at those, like did they push Halo on an upward trajectory or a downward or a downward one or a lateral one? Like, you guys can probably pick out which one. I wouldn't say like they put it on an upward trajectory in the franchise. I mean,
yeah,
so,
I'd absolutely agree with you.
Yeah. So with that, like like I hate putting pressure on devs because I mean, like I know how that feels. Like it sucks. Like you don't want to do that. But the matter of fact is, Infinite. It can't just be another Halo 5, another Halo 4. Like in order, if they want Halo to come back like in a huge way, they want it to be this multimedia franchise again that is on the lip of everybody's mouths again, and in that conversation for Game of the Year that kind of pushes the meeting forward. Like, it has to be great. It has to be. It has to transcend the other games in the series. Like, that's just how it is.
Oh Lord, we asking too much of 343.
I know.
Look,
Yeah,
let me say this. Let me say this real quick. So, and when everyone posed this question on Twitter, I said that for me, I just need 343 to make the best Halo they've ever made.
Right.
Which, if you look at and just maybe my personal opinion, I don't think their Halos have been all that. They've been good games, but they haven't been great games. And when you come from where Halo was, where literally every single Halo release was like a holiday. It was huge. It was like everybody, hey, here comes Halo. It's
Halo 1 all the way through Reach. It was massive. I mean,
right. And so then you get Halo 4, and you just like, what happened to the multiplayer?
Yeah.
And then you get Halo Guardians. You're like, yo, what happened to the campaign?
Just look at it this way. I mean, it's like I'm sorry to cut you off, man. It was like,
yeah.
Like, imagine, Sony putting out The Last of Us Part 2 or God of War or Spider-Man, and everyone's like, oh, this is fine, this is all right. Like, that's not gonna fly,
Right. There's an expectation, and so like me personally, my expectation for 343 isn't as high as it once was. At one point in time, my expectation for 343 was what Bungie's expectation, where Bungie used to hit the mark. Yeah. Now it's lower because I've seen them try to hit that mark and they haven't quite made it. So now what I just want is the best game that 343 can make. Now, even at this point, considering that you got the Coalition helping them, and I think a couple of other Xbox game studios are helping them, even if the game is great, I kind of feel like some of that credit needs to be shared among, all the studios that have contributed to this game. But that said, if I'm an Xbox executive, I need it to be more than just the best game 343 has released. Because this is my brand. This is whenever we have a mascot, we put Master Chief on the cover. We tried to orchestrate getting this game to be a launch game. The game is worth more. It's Halo.
Yeah.
Halo 2. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was in college.
Dual
Halo
wielding
2 came out.
Xbox Live.
And
I was Xbox Live beta tester.
I remember actually like putting down my pre-order at a GameStop. I remember I did so early that like when the game finally came out, I had like one of the first numbers at this huge GameStop in Towson, Maryland, and I had my number was like 7, and there were people in line at midnight coming out the mall. The line was out the mall, and I'm just walking, brushing the shoulders off. So happy. I'm getting that. I go because I already got my number. I'm number 7. Went straight to the front of the line, got my Halo, got my poster, got the Halo 2 with the metal case. That was
that metal case.
Yeah, I mean that was a major event.
Yeah.
And now it seems like that star has kind of dulled. And I understandably dulled because the game is older. And so I think now when it comes to what they need to do to reach that level again, some of the diehard Halo fans got to come off this I want my Halo thing. Because
I agree with you.
That's old, man.
I don't want sprinting.
Like, look. I mean, we a bunch of old guys saying, "I want my old Halo," And meanwhile, the new generation of gamers that keep coming in every year. There's new gamers who don't know anything about Halo, don't know anything about Master Chief, don't know about the history. They not some of these bitter fanboys is still upset at Microsoft for over something that happened in 2013. They don't know about any of that stuff. But what they do though, they love Fortnite. and the only Master Chief they know is a skin.
No, but we don't.
That was in Fortnite.
We don't want Halo to be that. I understand what you're saying. Like
I'm
you
not
can't
saying.
be beholden.
Hey, wait. I'm not saying that turn Halo into Fortnite. But what I'm saying is you have to implement. You have to start to evolve the franchise and implement elements of what is popular in games today in order to reach the same level of critical mass that you used to reach before. Now, I'm not saying you gotta do a battle royale, even though I think at some point they probably will do a battle royale. What I am saying is that the Halo format, it has to change some. And I saw that them trying, it'll be all the comments from the dev. Like they went ambitious. They had to kind of walk some things back. They wanted to go open world, but the engine wasn't good for it. So now it's like semi open world. They're doing an ongoing game process. I get all those things. I wanted more personally to kind of like bring it more towards, more modern. But I mean, we get to the point where there are Halo fans that just like are arguing over Sprint. You're arguing over Sprint?
This is what I said. We saw it in Gears. And I think that's why Gears is not really accessible to someone who's new to the franchise. Right? Like if you try to play Gears multiplayer right now, like you will get destroyed. And so that's a balance they have to walk. I agree with that. And as my whole point with this whole thing is, as long as we keep the conversation focused around what the game needs to be versus what accolades it needs to get, those are where to me the meaningful conversations are, because at the end of the day, when you play that game, whatever it ends up being, however you feel about it, the Metacritic score and the sales and the monthly active users are not going to change how you feel about that game, how you've played that game. So,
I agree with that.
Yeah, that's true, and that's why I said how what my expectation is and what I think Xbox's expectation is, what the overall gaming community expectations is. That
also one other thing. I'm sorry, Slow-Mo, and the idea of them chasing Bungie. I don't think that Bungie has lived up to the Bungie days of Halo.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
but those games still
we can't
stand.
be chasing ghosts.
No. Here's the thing: is that those games still stand on their own. Like you can't compare. Well, what Bungie sucks with Destiny now. Well, at least I think they suck. I think most people.
I'm
not going that far.
I was going to say, hold up.
But
the
gunplay
in Destiny 2 is second to none.
The gunplay is pretty solid in Destiny.
The gunplay
is crazy.
Nothing else is. Anyway, what I'm saying here is that yes, Bungie hasn't lived up to old school Bungie on Halo, but that's still 343's Ghost, because you're making Halo games, and so when people think about Halo, they think about Bungie's Halo.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think
they are Bungie people that stayed behind, right? Not half, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, real quick.
But we saw the end result of that. So how much did that help?
Yeah. Hey, real quick, because I gotta get the super chat before I forget. Neo Wise with the $2 super chat says 500 million and 1,000 devs and people okay with meh. And then
nobody said that.
No,
nobody said we okay with meh.
It's definitely not.
You understand these Halo fans how they're gonna go crazy?
No,
there was another super chat.
Is not right.
There was another super chat from Keop901. The $5 super chat says, question for Shinobi: how serious do you think Sony is into investing, bringing their IPs to PC? Do you really see Last of Us, God of War franchise coming to PC? Let me say it real quick, Shinobi.
Yeah. I mean, I think they are serious, but I think they're going about it probably in a smart way. They're relegating, bringing their big IPs to PC at a time where they've probably exhausted most of their console sales, right?
Yeah.
Which makes sense. They want to get, because they make money off of PlayStation is one of Sony's, if not their biggest, division in terms of revenue and stuff. So they, PlayStation is huge for them. So they want to bring people into the PlayStation ecosystem. So I think they are very serious. I mean, bringing big games like Horizon Zero Dawn and Days Gone to PC. I mean, that's not like, just, pissing in the wind here. They're really, I mean, that's serious. Those are big games.
Yo, Shinobi, what's the next PlayStation first party game going to PC?
Again, no insider info. I'm honestly, if I had to guess, I could potentially see. I mean, I imagine they probably want to bring Dreams over to PC.
I could totally see
that would make so much sense. That would make considering what it is and how you could probably really go ham with even more features on PC than you would on PlayStation. That would make a lot of sense.
Open it up with mods and all that kind of stuff. I mean, there's Oculus and just they could go crazy with that.
It could probably really flourish on. It could probably really flourish on PC, considering the creativity that you can do with that. Yeah, I mean, I got Dreams, and I didn't really get a chance to do what I wanted to do with it. I wanted to actually build something within Dreams. We just didn't have the time. But if it came to PC, and it was like, oh, look, there's so much more that you can do here. We've added all of these additional features to it. It might be something I might, start dedicating my time to. I think that would be a good idea.
Yeah.
Enrique, I'm probably gonna have to hop off real
man.
Quick here. Yeah, because gotta help the missus put the kids to bed.
I hear you. Well, Shinobi, why don't we give you a proper outro, man? I know we've gone over because we started a little bit late, but dude, I really appreciate you coming on, man. And always a pleasure.
I really had a good time, man. You guys gave a good conversation, lots to talk about, and I appreciate having me on, man. It's been too long, so I look forward to doing it again for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to get you on again sooner than later, man, for sure.
Yeah, for sure, man.
If you want to be found, Shinobi, you can let everyone know where they can find you. It's up to you if you want to be found.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if if anyone doesn't know me, you can just follow me at Shinobi602 on Twitter. Love to chat games. I post an excessive amount of screenshots and a good amount of food porn too, if that's your thing. So
oh yeah, you definitely do, man. Like you were eating some nachos or something, or I don't know what it was the other night. You were like,
it was it was like a Philly cheesesteak kind of melt thing, fried and just nacho cheese and sour cream and Philly all over there, and it's good stuff.
Shinobi, and when you grill, oh man, dude, I'm telling you, man, yeah.
If you guys want more of that, just hit that follow.
Absolutely.
All right.
Have a good night, bro.
Always a pleasure, man. Thank you.
Thanks so much, guys. Thanks so much for having me. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. That's the great Shinobi602. Give him a follow on Twitter. It's at Shinobi602 on Twitter. Just awesome to have him on. Great guy, great gamer, and he does really tweet a lot of food porn, and it's good. It's good food porn.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good one.
Absolutely.
All right.
So we were talking about. I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, Halo. I think OBM, you were going to chime in. I think I'm trying to make sure.
Yeah, I mean, I won't take too much because I know you're way over, and we're going to continue this conversation on our show tomorrow at 8. By the way, you had me at Halo, but I think we're actually more on the same page than you think. When I'm talking, what my comments were really more relative to some of the non-Halo fans. Like if you see, and again, I shouldn't take Twitter as people are saying because it's just a weird bubble. But a lot of people right now are really focused on textures of things way out in the backgrounds and stuff like that. And I'm like, that's not going to be what determines a quality Halo game to the Halo fan. Like we do want it to be epic. We do, and I agree with Everborn. We are probably the most as a base, one of the most toxic bases towards the developers. And that's not a good thing, but the expectations are high for that. But the thing, I guess what I was trying to say is the priorities for somebody that loves Halo in terms of what makes that game great are different than the priorities of somebody that that lists Last of Us as their favorite game and what makes that game great. Like there's just different priorities, and it's from a gameplay standpoint. I'm not talking about necessarily like sprint versus no sprint. We know they still have sprint in the game, and they're involving the sandbox with some other things as well, which have actually drawn criticisms from the old the old hat, or what the old guard that still wants it to be Halo 3. But in general, I'd say the majority of the community does just want it to be an epic Halo game, which means focusing on things like the sandbox, making that, because that's one of the areas that really took a step back under 343, is like how dynamic everything played out, how interesting, if you replayed the game, are you going to experience new things like that. And I do think that the focus is right there. And, obviously Halo is a big game. It's got multiplayer. It's going to have a lot of Forge and other extensions of that coming to the game. And I think it's going to be, judged on, a lot of different factors. And yes, we do expect it to be a full package. I think I think Halo fans are kind of, maybe we don't want the exact same things, but I think we're on the same page of it needing to be a great Halo game. What I'm just saying is that sometimes I see some of the comments, they're still really, really focused on the textures. And I'm like, even at its best, even when it meets its standards and is fully finished, I don't think they're going with this, I don't think that's where they're putting the resources. I think it's got to go more into the sandbox than just graphics. But that's that again. I'll end it there.
But I think even then, when we talk about graphics, because I feel like people have, it seems like people don't have any sort of like you have to look at these things in a sort of nuanced way, in that it is what you have to look at the finished product and package to say what it is. Right? If you look at, like you said, just textures, the game is not just textures. When you put it all together, that is when you know what the quality of the product was, and no one is arguing for a mediocre product, right? Agree. No one, anyone that is rooting for this game wants a stellar Halo experience. All I'm saying is, if your metric for whether the game is stellar is what it scores in Metacritic, and that tells you whether it's good or not, that's really my main problem, right? Because Halo 4 got an 87 Metacritic and Miles Morales got an 85. Does that mean Halo 4 was better than Miles Morales? I don't know that anyone that. Oh, well, okay.
Higher numbers. Come on, 87 is higher than 85.
I guess so. No, but this is the problem.
I get what you're saying. I'm just joking, by the way.
I was going to say, I think you're getting caught up on the accolade mention that he mentioned earlier. And the big difference here that he was pointing out is that there's a good game, and there's nothing wrong with being a good game. But there's also these transcendent games that come out that are undeniable, that everybody wants to play. And is Halo, the next Halo, going to be that, or is it going to be the next Halo that all the Halo fans love? Because I'm gonna tell you the truth, most of them are going to love it.
I think there's a lot of Halo fans, though. I think that's the thing people
there's plenty.
Maybe. Yeah, I think that people underestimate that, and that's the biggest difference I think between.
But I don't think those things are mutually exclusive. They're like with Shinobi.
But is that enough, right? Yeah. Like, because again, I keep coming back to Gears, right? I keep coming back to it because that's a franchise that's really just made for the Gears fans, and I don't think that they've reached out much.
No, that's exactly my problem though with Gears, and that's what I was afraid of with Halo, to tell you the truth, because I'm not a fan of either franchise. But I've always been in gaming, and what y'all were talking about earlier when he said the line was out the mall, like Halo 3 was like the Moab. That was the last time it shut down Times Square. It was everywhere. It was completely undeniable. Like, that's what I remember Halo for. I didn't even like Halo, and I remember that's what Halo was about. Yeah, like, that's how big it was.
Hollywood studios were complaining that Halo's release messed up their movie launches and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
But part of that was tied to the, like what Innate said, that at the time that franchise was like at the pinnacle.
Yeah,
and
It was.
that's my point. Like look, am I going to play Halo Infinite? Yes, obviously I'm going to play it. Right, it's going to be on Game Pass. It's going to be free. I get to play it. I'll be there. Right, I may play it on PC, innate. Right, but that's my point. Like, I just feel like we can have the conversation of quality. Much like like things like you look at like Mario. Like Mario is still like one of the top platformers in the business, and it seems like every time Nintendo puts out a new Mario game, it's just like holy shit, this is great.
Yeah, it has a high review score. The fan base loves it. And it's generally considered to be a quality experience that doesn't get stale, even though I don't like Nintendo first party. It ain't for me. But for the people who do like it, it hits all of those check marks. What Halo needs to do is not just appeal to the Halo gamer. It actually, they have Game Pass here. And they need to have a title in Game Pass that justifies the monthly subscription. They need to have something that people know, man, I have to play that. Like, I don't know what I need to do. Let me get my hands on Xbox Series X. Let me go upgrade my PC. Let me do whatever I need to do to play that. And it be a game that people months down the road will continue to play. That's the kind of title that they need, because Game Pass is the platform now. So everything that you do, it ain't about Halo fans no more. Like we want to appeal to.
Shut up.
Yeah. Hey, it is what it is. Look, I'm trying to look.
But you're gonna be there no matter what.
I'm a Halo
so it's
fan.
not.
Exactly right. You're going to get it no matter what. So they already know they got your support. But they want more than just the Halo fan, because they got all the Halo fans with Halo Guardians, but it still didn't garner the attention that they wanted it to garner. They need more than that. And they know that this subscription service, this platform that they're trying to build up, needs more than just the Halo community, because they've been nonstop playing Halo Guardians multiplayer all these years.
Well, I think that's why they bought Bethesda, though. So, I mean,
well, but I'm glad you said that. I was gonna say they realized it wasn't gonna go that crazy. It's no longer gonna be the Moab, and that's where all these other studios are coming in. They're finally becoming that multifaceted publisher they always really needed to be, and that's key. But I still don't think they should give up on that, because I still think, even as someone who's personally not a Halo fan, I still think the game is capable of getting to that point, but they got to put the wrench in. And what I mean by put the wrench in, and what I think Enrique was alluding to, whether it's a good Halo game or it exceeds that and it becomes that undisputed game of the year, like, versus the good Halo game, is like, when I'll give you an example, and I always use the people who are not gamers, because that's who you want to get. That's who they want. Right. I had people at work when God of War came out, Susan from accounting, and that's not a joke. Susan from accounting was like, she came to me and is like, Tony, I need a PlayStation, and I need to figure out, like, I need it before God of War comes out. I seen it. I need to play it. She don't care what else was out. She about to buy a whole system because God of War is coming out, and she's seen the trailer. That's it. That's all it took. Like, it was already that great to her. Another one of my friends, PC player to the core till he died. League of Legends, everything, all PC. Spider-Man came out. Tony, I need to pre-order the Spider-Man edition PlayStation 4 Pro. I need to make sure my 4K TV's on point. Like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when these franchises can exceed, their already chosen user base, that's when I think they go in. And I honestly think the last time Halo did that, I mean, even though Reach was still a really big release, but Halo 3, and y'all can still look it up, Game Trailers did a review. The reviewer sounded like he wanted to make love to that game. Like he was in love with that game. Like, I haven't heard a review so passionate in so long. And that's how big Halo was. I was like, damn, this is crazy. Like, I really wish I was into this game. Like I said, it was never my jam, but I always understood how big it was. And like, I still feel like it could get back to that point, but that goes to what Slomo said. You gotta bring about something new to the franchise that's going to appeal to people who aren't just Halo fans. And that's what I'm interested to see if they can do. And it's not going to fail if they don't, like, cause y'all going to love it. You know what I'm saying? It's going to garner a lot of interest. Game Pass is going to help it. They got plenty of things in play, but is it going to, exceed that point? And I know you were saying the textures and this and that, but to me, that's important because I look at everything and the gameplay is important, but so are the textures.
Right.
I mean,
but I think that's
draws
what's
in the
important.
that draws in the casual game.
No, but that doesn't mean that the textures are not going to be there. It just means that when you look at a project when it is all put together. So, for example, Returnal looks beautiful, right? The textures are not. What is it, like 1080p upscale to 4K? It is when you put that package together, your art direction, the all of those things go together for what is gonna look beautiful for the end presentation, right? So when you have ray tracing on, when they do whatever they do with the textures, it could. I'm not saying it will. I'm not saying it's guaranteed, but I just think like looking at a single zoomed in frame right now, I don't think that that's a fruitful conversation right now until you have the whole package put together. You know what I mean? It's the art direction and everything else that goes with it.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, art direction definitely plays a major factor. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's exclusive to Halo, but a lot of people were okay with what the game looked like during that last presentation. And to me, that wasn't okay. And I saw BRAP speak up that it wasn't okay. And it's like, to me, like, I was like, damn, if that's what's okay to y'all, like, damn, that standard is low. Not that y'all, not you, not ever, and one bad, but a lot of people were okay with that. And I was like, damn, that's all y'all want out of this. Like, and like for me, I look at certain things and I have other standards in other areas. Like look at how people got on the very little amount of small textures that were bad in Final Fantasy VII. Like people get on this stuff.
The door in his apartment.
Yeah, the door.
The door in his apartment.
That thing. I mean, you
that
see
door
that
was pretty
door.
bad though.
It was bad.
That door was PS2 level.
No, that door was
graphics.
PS1.
But
that door was the original
I bet
game.
you only see that door like 3 times total in the entire game, and it was all over Twitter. It was all over Twitter.
Remember Puddlegate for Spider-Man?
Yeah. Oh, that's all Kofi's fault.
Just because the puddles changed.
No, but I like this is the thing that I wonder and worry about. Will Halo Infinite like take the sort of the tortoise and the hare and be the tortoise kind of thing, and it's kind of like a Sea of Thieves where it doesn't hit when it first launches, and then they'll just keep at it. And I hope that I don't want this to happen, but I'm just looking at.
I don't think that.
I don't think that.
I think it's going to hit for the foundation, like I said, the base initially, and then I think they'll expand and take chances from there. And I think that's a smart way to go about it, honestly. And not am I saying that right? Innate or Nate?
Innate.
Innate. I'm sorry about that, man.
No, you're good.
No, but you
I
make.
like how you called him Inate. Made it sound kind of like.
It was actually originally pronounced that way when I made it, but everybody called me Innate, so I went that way. But it was originally the last name of a character I made for EVE Online, and his last name was Inate. So you're not wrong. Nice. It's just Innate nowadays.
It makes me feel better. Yeah, that's what it was always like in my head. But no, you bring up like, and again, it's like I feel like I want to say I agree with everything everybody said. But I think the thing is again, you got to think about the priorities. I agree with you, Slow-Mo and Innate when it comes to textures. They do draw in the casuals. Again, when I think of it as a Halo fan, it's the sandbox, it's the AI, it's the story, it's the lore. Like, it's not that the textures don't matter. It's not the graphics don't matter. I'm just saying like the prioritization based on what that game is supposed to be is just different than the prioritization of a game like like Last of Us, where the story is really like bringing you into those characters, and and really trying to immerse you with the highest like graphics you've never seen before. That's really more what those priorities are, and they're just different. And I don't think that makes it. And I hear what you say, Enrique, like the like quality, like we kind of know when we see something that's quality, but at the end of the day, every developer has a certain amount of resources and they got to prioritize. It's not infinite, right? Like no pun intended. No matter how big your development team is, you do have to say, well, these are the things that we need to hit first. And we'll scale the visuals based on that, or maybe if you were going to focus on textures like they did, like 343 did with Halo 4. If you look at Halo 4 right now, it looks like it still looks really good, right? Like in 4K. But that sandbox and the AI and the fact that your enemies like disappeared every time you killed them, like all that stuff was not Halo. It was a step down to me and to a lot of Halo fans in terms of the way the game played and the way it felt. And do I even want to go back to it? I go back to the classic Halos all the time. I don't really I don't enjoy going back to Halo 4. And I know, Everborn, you like the campaign and the story, but the gameplay to me doesn't feel great. It to me, that felt like a step down. And what I've heard from the developers, they are putting a focus on AI. In every single update, they've talked about the sandbox, even tying in like the sound effects to the sandbox and things like that. So I'm pretty excited about what they've talked about. It seems like they understand what the fans are looking for and how to prioritize their resources. Now, whether they hit on that, we'll have to wait and see. But I at least think that they have their focus in the right place for the Halo fan. And again, that's not going to necessarily, I think they're going to have Hellblade for those other types of fans that want just something that's just going to be visually stunning that they can show off to their friends. Starfield will, be for that open world. They have other studios to kind of fill those other niches for those other types of consumers. Halo is a huge base, and I think locking that down before you expand makes sense. It's different to me than Gears, because Gears base has become very niche, and it's a much smaller base, and so I think that's the biggest difference between those two. And I'll stop now.
No, I mean there's a great point. And Obi, we got to talk about this maybe on a BRAP rant too. There's more I could talk about Halo, but we're getting close to midnight here. We did go over. Because one, we started late. Two, great conversation. Seriously, great points made by all here on the panel regarding this topic and the previous topics tonight. So, want to give a real quick big shout out to everyone in the live chat. If you haven't done so, please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you're alerted when we go live. We will have a BRAP rant this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. Got a little bit of a programming change. We were actually supposed to have this Saturday. We're actually supposed to have I forget his name now. I can't believe this because I'm tired. John Garvin, who was the creative director of Days Gone and worked on Siphon Filter. Unfortunately, he can't make it this weekend, but he is going to. We are going to get him back on this summer, and there's going to be some kind of announcement, I think, too, with that. So. Stay tuned for that. I'm actually really excited. He told me that. I'm like, okay, it actually might work out better. But we're gonna do a BRAP rant this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern time. So keep an eye out for that announcement as well. But want to give a big shout out again to Shinobi for joining us this evening. Great guest. Always a pleasure having him on. Also give a big shout out to my BRAP brethren who couldn't make it tonight. Eric Jackson and B Money 101. We miss you guys. Hope you guys are well, and look forward to talking video games with you guys again soon. But also want to give a shout out to first time guest Nate, who Nate, dude, it was really cool, man, that you came on. It's like you came on to help Shinobi with some technical difficulties. I was like, hey, why don't you just join the show? And I'm glad you could hang out with us, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah, man, I enjoyed it a lot. It was a lot of fun. I kind of considered it while I was in here, and then you mentioned it, so I was like, you know what? The girlfriend is she's still asleep, and I could sneak in a podcast.
There you go.
Finally get on with the homies. So why not?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you did a great job, man.
You did.
Yeah, really good. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Nate, we got to do a PC podcast, man, like a PC BRAP rant or something, man.
I'm down anytime, man. I know all the ins and outs, so I'm down.
Yeah, we definitely got to do that, man. That would be fun. But Nate, if you want to be found, let everyone know they can find you, man.
Just I mean, I'm Nate on PSN and pretty much most places, and on Twitter at the real Innate, and same thing on Xbox at the real Innate. I'm never really on there because everything on Xbox is on PC, so you can find me on PC that way as well. And yeah, man, I enjoyed it. I appreciate it.
No, absolutely, man. Thank you again, man. I really appreciate you coming on. And then we also have returning guest Evan Bourne Saga. Evan Bourne, man, always a pleasure, man, having you on. You always provide a very insightful commentary, man. And again, man, just always a pleasure. Glad you could make it again. 11th hour invitation, so I really appreciate you.
I was hoping that you would let me get on here because no, man, this Halo conversation is really upset me, man. And I just wish people could not be children. If you think any Halo fan is not going to hold 343's feet to the fire like they did with the last two games, you are. I have a bridge in Brooklyn to sell you. That's all I want to say. But thank you for having me. And, we will continue this conversation. And Prince of Arcadia Chapter 4 is getting ready to drop. So check that out. Go to everbornsaga.com. And you can also get a hold of me on PlayStation, Xbox, Steam, TikTok, whatever. I'm everywhere at Everborn Saga, but everbornsaga.com. And good news, if you supported the Kickstarter, print production is complete and the books are on the way to me, which means they will be on their way to you shortly. I'm going to post a video on Twitter showing how the quality of those books when they come out. So check out everbornsaga.com and get up to date with the series. And like I said, Prince of Arcadia Chapter 4 dropping very soon.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Well, thank you again, Evan Bourne Saga. Always a pleasure, sir. Definitely have to get you back on again. And then we have my good friend from Xbox, who I've known on Xbox Live for like 19 years, OBM1 Bat Mother, and that was his gamer tag. And I think I sent you I was thinking about how I met you, and I'm like, I think it was your gamer tag that I was like, I got to get this guy on my friends list.
Yeah, we knew each other from the GameSpot forums, back when Enrique let everybody know, even back 20 years ago, that he was a Xbox Live beta tester. I don't know if you were able to make that announcement today. So
I did sneak it in earlier in the show.
So, but yeah, man, it's always awesome coming on here and talking with the crew. I think we always have it's really good conversations, respectful, even when we, kind of have different perspectives on things. And hey, it's nice to meet you. I know we've talked in the Discord a few times, and
Definitely.
It's always, yeah. And you made some really good points, man. You sounded really good today. So, yeah, it was nice to get to meet you. And Everborn is twice in a week, I think, right? Since I saw you on Luca's show. And yeah, absolutely, man. We eventually, once we start branching out our Halo thing, I'll have to figure out how to get you on there too. But
100%.
Yeah, and you always make really, really good points as well. So I could just second a lot of that stuff. But yeah, if you want to find me, I'm on Twitter at One Bad Mother at Mother_1. We have a Halo show, and tomorrow at 8:00 we'll actually be doing a live show. So try to join us if you want to continue this discussion, because this is really going to be the main topic of tomorrow. And then other than that, I'm doing some other things with Xbox Era. So I'll be putting out some more content through them here shortly, and including another kind of show underneath them. So look out for me there. But like I said, I really appreciate coming on. It's always fun. And even though mine wasn't the 11th hour, it was the 11th and a half hour. I'm glad you got me in here today.
No, absolutely, OBM. Always a pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. And then we have my BRAP brethren here. We have Grumpy Gaming Forte. Forte, sir. Always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, man. Good show, guys. Shout out to Nate for putting down that great knowledge. And I wasn't contributing to that Halo topic because it was going to be nothing but salt. So I'm just going to let that be. Not gonna go into all that. But Gaming Forte everywhere: YouTube, Twitter, Xbox Live, PlayStation. Check us out there and have a good week.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
And then we got the man of many backslaps, slow-mo backslap.
Yo, great show, actually. Absolutely awesome show. Great conversations. It just, the time just went because we just kept, really just, going back and forth with not necessarily back and forth like adversarially, like except for Forte. Forte's kind of angry tonight, but otherwise, I mean, like no anger, just real good discussions, gaming discussions. I loved it. Check out DPS podcast. That's Damage Per Second podcast tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern on my channel. We're going to have a special guest, and that special guest will be Jeff Grubb from Venture Beat and Games Beat. He'll be joining us for some good conversations. We got a lot to talk about, and hopefully getting Jeff to drop some nuggets that end up in an article on Friday or something like that. Who knows?
That might happen.
But yeah, with Jeff, it's hilarious because he doesn't preface everything the way Shinobi does. Shinobi's like, hey, this isn't a leak or anything. I'm not an insider, but let me say some insiderish kind of stuff, right? No, like Jeff just be like, oh, like Mass Effect Legendary Edition's coming. And like that literally, that's he said that last year in the podcast, and then people was just like, oh boy, and then here we are, 2 days from now is actually coming. So yeah, just hilarious stuff like that. I'm not saying that's what we want him to do tomorrow, but we're just gonna have great conversations, pick his brain on just his point of view on things in gaming, and more than likely I think it's gonna be pretty awesome, just because me and Forte are always disagreeing with things, and I think he has some great perspective on things, and I think his is different than ours as well, so it should be pretty interesting, pretty cool. Come check us out.
Yeah, that's gonna be an awesome show. Grubb's a great guest, great guy, great guest, and looking forward to that show tomorrow night. That's gonna be awesome, gentlemen. So all right, on that note, we are out. Everyone enjoy the rest of the week. Remember, the Mass Effect Legendary Edition release is this Friday. So this has been the last 3 weeks of gaming have just been incredible with Returnal, and then Resident Evil Village, and now Mass Effect Legendary Edition releasing this week. So enjoy those games, enjoy gaming in general. Catch us this Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time for a BRAP rant, and give me a follow at BRAP_podcast on Twitter so you get up.
Enrique,
yeah.
Are you going to stream Mass Effect?
No, probably not. Probably won't stream it because I'm gonna be playing it on my PC, so I probably won't stream it.
You can stream it on your PC.
I know, but I don't know.
You could probably actually stream it easier on your PC than it would be on a console.
Yeah, I'd have to use what is it? I guess I could use OBS to stream it, or NVIDIA. I know NVIDIA you can do live stream, but I don't know how.
Oh, Shadow Play?
Yeah, I don't know how. Well, I don't know how the quality is. Well, no, I think with NVIDIA you could actually do it through. And Nate, correct me if I'm wrong too. I think you could do it through the GeForce Experience. I think.
Yes, you could.
Yeah,
that's Shadow Play. That's Shadow Play. Essentially.
Are you talking about actually streaming it?
Yeah.
Shadow. That was like they came out with something else, but Shadow Play is like the record, like this recording / streaming that you can do.
But OBS is still better. Like OBS or Streamlabs OBS.
OBS is better, but it's still a little more intensive, except they did add the I forget what graphics card you have, but they added the 2070. So I think you could use it as long as you have the 20 series and up.
Yeah, he's got the NVIDIA's NVIC encoder. So he'll be good to go. And you could do it at whatever resolution you're at, like using those external capture cards, or I mean, even though I got an internal AverMedia, but still, like those are you got kind of, when it comes to consoles, it's like trying to figure out the right resolution and things like that. Then you got to worry about other settings in consoles where you got to turn on HD CP or turn it off, whatever, stuff like that. But you don't have to worry about any of that when you're just using RTX graphics card and just going live with that. Trust me, it's easier, man.
Yeah. So
once you get used to it, to get a hang of it, you're just like, wow.
Basically, just need to do is
what I've been doing.
Yeah, I'll have to talk to you offline about setting that up on Streamlabs. I have to figure that out. So, because I've never streamed for the PC. So, Yeah, maybe I'll do it. I might do it. Obviously, I'm gonna start with Mass Effect 1. You know, and just play through it and see. You know, see.
Yeah. I think I might stream it. I think I probably will. I'm leaning towards doing that as long as work doesn't go crazy.
Yeah.
With some stuff. But yeah,
Yeah.
I should be probably streaming it Friday. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh, cool, man. All right, awesome. Well, everyone, enjoy the rest of the evening, and please catch DPS tomorrow night with my fellow BRAP brethren here, Gaming Forte and Slomo Backslap, as they have Jeff Grubb on from Games Beat. Jeff's a great guest. You definitely don't want to miss that. 9 p.m. Eastern time. So, on that note, we are out. Everyone, have a great rest of the evening. Peace.